Got it. Thank you.
Heather? Start.
Thank you. For coming in. We're live. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. This is the General Services Budget Review, and you can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remember, men lead us in the pledge. Take a roll call. Councilmember Figueroa is not here tonight. Councilmember Steele is. Councilmember Men is. President Mantello, Council President Mantello ex officio is here. Councilmember Conley Wilson is here. Councilmember Sorrento is here, and I am here. You need to run through me. So we're going to start with
Chair.
we're going to start with golf.
Please, a favor.
What do you want?
I just thought of it, if we could just take a moment of silence for the folks in the.
Welcome. So we're gonna go through our budgets. We're gonna start with golf. I thank everybody for being here. Greg Tudor, Jeff Buell, Andy, the numbers guy, Chris Nolan, thank you. Just give it to us, will you? And if you have any questions, please. Where's that going? Is that TV again?
TV.
We have a three-year TV repair guy we can call and that stuff. You're out there.
Guys did go to the golf course on TV.
I'm thinking, did we buy a new cord yet? Did we buy a new cord for it? That was probably the first thing I would do is buy a cord that looks like it's bad.
Very annoying.
Did we buy the $23 extended protection plan?
Yeah. This would be adventure. I was saying that you don't. All right, Andy, you want to start?
Yes, we'll start on page 8 for the revenues. Towards the bottom of the page, culture and recreation, golf fees are budgeted for $740,000. And golf carts are budgeted for $393,000. Both an increase from 2022 budget, however, they're from the 2023 budget. However, there's no rate changes proposed as part of this year's budget. The increases are based off of, Josh did a really good job working, preparing a lot of it. Based off the current year unit counts that we've seen. This is the first year, obviously the first year with the new drainage installed. Looking at the numbers of where we are year to date, we're almost dead on to these numbers themselves. It is a $1 million golf course in 2023. Now these revenue projections push it up almost to 1.2. It's right around 1.1, 1.15.
Andy, I can only hope that George Rogers is listening to this.
He's smiling, that I know.
Oh, I know, we used to tease back and forth quite a bit. Okay, I'm sorry, continue.
Are there any other questions on revenues?
On the gift cards, I noticed that receipts in 2022 were 3,500. Was that just because of COVID, or was there a reason why in 2022 there was 35, 32 in golf fees gift card? Is that like a Christmas thing?
Mostly just Christmas is the 35, 32.
it's hard to project gift cards. You don't really want to project a Latin gift cards because you don't know it could change from year to year. It's not a unit-based revenue projection, so that's kind of, it's hard to base revenue off gift cards.
Very cool, thank you.
Chair,
Councilmember Eileen Wilson.
can you guys just walk through the, merchandise for that?
Yeah, merchandising is, so we do hats like Councilman Gully has on his head. We have them, quarter zips, polos, golf balls, golf tees, things like that. We don't have a big pro shop. We have a very small space. But that's what we sell in the pro shop right now. And we've gotten more merchandise as we've gone on.
So you estimate next year would be about double, what is that estimated this
Yeah,
year?
so we'll get to the budget, but there's a budget increase in buying merchandise, anticipating more sales of merchandise.
Chair?
Council President Mantello.
All right, Andy, what do we have, revenues to date?
Over $700,000 in fees and over $300,000 in cards.
So we're on target, would you say, but the cards a little off, maybe 340?
If cards very well may hit 340, if it doesn't hit 340, it will be just under.
And is there a reason, Andy, the 393, why you feel, we may get 393 next year?
It was based off of unit counts from this year and what Greg and Josh anticipate up in force for next year.
What do you think, Josh? And Kurt?
It showed this year. I mean, it's easily the busiest year we've ever had. It's hard for us to meet the demand that we have. There's only so many tea times in a day and it's hard. I mean, we're open all the time now. We don't close the golf course. We closed this past Saturday for the first time since April, so it's a completely,
People were gonna stay.
it's a completely different place than what it was, so. I think it's a true estimate and right on, I don't think we're under, I don't think we're over. I think it's kind of right where it should be.
We guys are really doing that. So I think Craig, Steve, and everything is top notch and, like Councilmember Gully is, and I have been talking about one time now, we need to get the facility and be complementary to the course we have. Do you guys plan to, change anything in terms of, just the tournaments and leagues and all that? Do you plan to add anything? What's your?
We don't have room for any more leagues, so we're maxed out with leagues. Tournaments is an interesting thing that I go back and forth on. We've cut back tournaments to where they used to be because we don't need the tournament revenue to make money. And tournaments close the course down to the public, so we try not to do that. However, if somebody's gonna come with 140 people at the max rate with no discounts, we're gonna take them because that's a money-making day. So it's all based upon how many people the tournaments will bring. If somebody comes and says they want to bring 60 people, well, you can bring 60 people, but you're gonna have a tea time event and the course isn't gonna be shut down. It's gonna be open with the general public as well. So it's all about numbers, how many they're gonna have and how we're gonna run the tournament that way.
We're gonna get to the capital plan, and we're gonna talk about that after, but, the pro shop, anything you'd like to, I mean, it is what it is, but, have you thought of anything different in the pro shop?
Not really, to be honest with you, we're kind of landlocked at this point. If other facilities were to change, maybe we would change, but right now, I mean, we're in an okay spot. Would we like a little more space? Maybe, but I mean, we're in an okay spot. We don't sell a ton of merchandise. Big pro shops are kind of a thing of the past. It's not something that many courses utilize. Everybody buys online now. So you don't go to other courses and see courses stocked with clubs or not. So we don't need a huge space. Greg does a great job with the landscaping outside of it.
Because I break them off.
Yeah. So Greg has done a much better job with the landscaping outside the building since he got here. I think it beautifies it a little bit. It's a little wonky how you go through different areas, but that's just kind of, it's an old setup, so we're an old facility, but the pro shop itself is fine.
And then one last thing, Greg, took me on a tour a couple times, and I think one of the real concerns is the annex and where our very valuable equipment is. You know, or we can make it through the winter in that annex with our equipment.
I think so. I mean, we all know that it needs to be repaired. There's money in the capital plan for 2025 for the facility to be repaired. We've moved the chemicals into a chemical storage shed up at Greg's place, which has helped. He keeps an eye on all the equipment. Obviously, Greg's always watching it, and we haven't had winter damage yet. Yes, the building is old and needs some repairs. We're keeping an eye on it. We put it in the capital plan for a couple of years from now, and we think it'll hold up in due time while we wait to get that money.
Do you plan to patch the roof or anything? Because it was the day we were there, it was leaking a little and.
Yeah, I mean, we're open. If we need to, we'll do it. We have money in the repair lines for next year's budget. If we need to do it on an emergency basis, we do have the ability to do it. So we're open to doing that if it's going to affect the equipment in a harmful way.
And then Andy, we budgeted for concessions in 22 and 23, but not 24. Uh,
That's not related to the golf course.
okay,
And I have to pull the receipts on that.
yeah, I was wondering where it was. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, guys.
Councilmember Ben.
For the pro shop, do you have an online store?
We don't, no.
Have you looked at doing an online store, because then you can sell Troy themed merchandise year round and hit the holiday season as well, because what could be a better gift for all of your friends, for everybody listening to us, than Troy Golf Course here as modeled by council member Gator Shop done early. Do you offer Black Friday?
We don't. We have, we're open all December long for gift cards on there, 6 days a week during the winter time. We do have a lot of people come in. I do keep merchandise left over from the season, so we put that out during Christmas time and people do buy it. To be completely frank, I haven't had enough money in the pro shop budget line to buy enough stuff to make an online store worth it. I think next year, as long as the budget passes with the line and the money I have in it, I think it's something we can definitely look at. I just haven't had enough in the past to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, I just feel like online retail stuff so much easier than it used to be, and there are Trojans throughout the world that definitely love about, their theme falls and be the envy of everyone.
For sure, it would be popular.
Yeah.
100%.
Slightly less popular season pass. And because I believe they came up, we did discuss it last year in terms of, doing the comparisons with other courses in the area. And I think we did discuss this a little bit about there's 200 season passes, is that correct? So it's a limited number.
We don't cut it off, so.
We don't cut it off.
No.
So, and the cost for season passes, how much?
It varies by location and age.
Oh.
So like a resident over the 60 and over pays $1,000.
Mhm.
A resident 59 and under pays $1,200. A non-resident 60 and over pays $1,200. A non-resident 59 and under pays $1,500.
And generally, how many rounds does like a senior have to play, a Troy senior have to play before, it's like a tipping point with, versus like if they were just paying a la carte.
It all varies. If they play in a league, that changes the variable. If they don't play in a league, you're looking at between 20 and 32 rounds.
Have you thought about increasing fees for non-residents?
I think if you're gonna do it, you have to do it across the board. It can't just be a non-resident thing or a resident thing. It has to be completely across the board.
Um,
Have I thought about it? Yes.
Congrats on bringing it to this level. It's really very.
Thank you.
Sure.
Council President Mantel.
Well, first of all, Councilmember Gully was trying to squeeze in here a lifetime pass of some sort, but I don't think, he's trying to negotiate. I don't think that's going. Josh, no fee increases, proposed, correct?
That's correct.
Very good. We'd like to hear that. And, you know, one of the things, some of the nonprofits and some of the volunteer organizations used to have, you know, good, I'm talking, this was years and years ago, probably when you were still in high school. A really good partnership with the course to try to get, you know, kids who would not normally be playing golf onto the course. Have we thought about maybe trying to partner with some nonprofits and some volunteer groups, to try to get some of these kids on the course to, you know, learn some golf?
Yeah, it's definitely something we've talked about. This year, we were just kind of, after the project, we just wanted a year of just
Right.
running the golf course, seeing how everything worked, seeing how the short game practice area worked, and then we can build off that. We do host 5 high schools at Fair Park. It's the most high schools that are at any course in the area. No course hosts that many high schools. It's a nominal fee the high school pays. Those kids can come and play during the golf season. They can practice during the golf season.
What's the fee for that,
It's $550 for the school.
for the school per
Per-
player?
No,
No?
just for the school.
550 plus fee?
Yes.
Wow. Because they, a few of them were playing my golf league.
Yeah, and to be honest, with you, I wouldn't raise that fee. I don't think that's right. I think you need to encourage junior golfers because 5-6 years from now, they're gonna be the ones that are paying $55 to play. And it gets them on the course, it gets them playing. It's a short season, it's 7 weeks, but they can go out there and play. They love it. I've had numerous Troy High kids that started playing when they're freshmen, they're seniors now. They love playing the course. They come back year round and play. And it's been a huge benefit. Tamarack uses our golf course in South, Capitai, Troy High. So we really do a great job of hosting the junior golf events. We also hosted a Northeast New York junior event, which brought the best junior golfers in the area to the course in June. There was over 120 junior golfers that played that event in June as well. So that was another success. They had never come to Fair Park before. Conditions were never right. They came this year and already booked for next year. So it just shows the condition of the course there as well.
That's awesome. And yeah, the junior golfers, they're awesome. I mean, they fly through. Also the county amateur men, right?
Yes. That's in September every year.
The women's, where's that held? Is that a,
I would love a woman to, so we don't host, we just host the event. We don't run the event. So the Rensselaer County Men's Amateur has their own committee. They host the tournament. They run the tournament, we host the tournament. So we help with the ancillary parts, but we don't run the tournament. I would love any women's group to come and host a women's amateur event. We would love it. Me and Greg have talked about it many times, actually getting women there playing. We have all these new women's teams. We have seen a tremendous growth in women's golfers there this year with the new way the course is set up.
it typically is friendly or as someone who's out terrible. But yeah, in the gully. Or,
5, yeah,
oh, five,
it's worked out good.
yeah, really. Thank you. We're good. Yeah.
Councilmember Conley was.
Just going back to the season passes, how do we compare to other municipalities in terms of our rate for season passes?
Municipalities, we are a couple hundred less than Schenectady. City of Albany doesn't offer season passes. The town of Guilderland, Western Turnpike is right around our pass number, and we're more expensive than Amsterdam municipal.
Would you say our course is better than Amsterdam's or about the same?
Our course is better than all those courses, in my opinion. They're all nice. I think ours is the best.
Do all those courses also have like, I know we have the pub park right there. Do all those courses have like amenities for eating?
Schenectady does, Albany does. I've never been to Amsterdam Uni, so I can't talk on that. The town of Guilderland, Western Turnpike does as well.
Thank you.
Well,
Let's continue, Andy, revenues. Someone else
Oh, actually, Chair.
on the budget. Councilmember, we want to stay in focus. No, third.
Right.
I'll give a TBR. TBR. Or what? I don't know. Just out of curiosity, you mentioned that the high school that you're working with, are you working with Hudson Valley and do you also have, or not, Emma Willard? And also, do you have college?
We don't have a student right now. We don't. Hudson Valley used to use the course, COVID hit. Their team kind of went separate ways and they haven't come back since. I know they're talking about putting the team back together. I haven't talked to the athletic director about that. They used to play at our course as well. And the Lord, I've never spoken to, so I can't talk on that. Not sure if they have a team or not.
But we do not currently have a student rate.
There's no student rate. There's a junior rate. So if they're under 18, you get a junior rate, but we don't have a student rate. So 18 and over college students, RPI students, they don't get a break.
And then just looking forward, it's RPI's 200th anniversary. Have you done any outreach to RPI or because they will have a lot of alumni visiting this year for a series of at the golf course because it is so close and
Yeah, man, I'm open to talking to them. RPI football hosts a golf tournament every year, of course. There's another gentleman, I can't remember his name. He was part of the choir of some sort. He brings 36 golfers to the course every year too. So we're always open to hosting events. Again, it goes back to how many people they have and then how we can structure it. But to be honest with you, if I reach out, I really am not in the process of reaching out to people to bring to the course because we have so much demand. It's not something that I really look into. If they want to come meet with me, I'm happy to talk to anybody, but it's not something I will actively reach out.
Councilmember Soriano.
Speaking of the discounted rates that Councilmember Men was asking about, what about for veterans? I don't think we have a discounted rate for veterans and has that option been explored?
We've talked about it. I think the thing that you get to with veteran golfers is the large majority of them are seniors. We offer the cheapest senior rate in the area. So we feel like that's something that we can offer them. I haven't had much demand from younger veterans. We've talked about it many times. It's just not something that, it's kind of hard with our price structure of where we're going to discount even more because we're already where we want to be. And we do offer that senior rate, which can help a large majority of the veterans.
So like, now, if they aren't seniors, but they're people different, thinking maybe they should get that senior rate also.
I mean, that's something to discuss. I can't do that on my own. If they're resident veterans, of course, they can get a resident card and get the resident rate. So that saves them $10 if they were to do that as well. So you're really looking at a small portion of non-resident veterans who are under the age of 60. That's kind of your demographic that you would be looking at.
Thank you.
Any other questions on revenues? Not page 141. The changes in 101 for permanent salaries are contractual. We increased the temporary salary line from 145,000 to 175,000 to account for changes. Well, as we discussed last Thursday, we did underestimate that line for 2023, and then a further increase to address the anticipated hourly rates for all of the employees, all of the seasonal and part-time employees at the golf course in 2024.
Sure.
Council President.
Yep, the temporary, we did the budget transfer that hence the increase for next year to, try to estimate their role.
Correct, that, and then also accounting for 2024 hourly rates as well.
Okay, how
Right.
much did that go up?
We increased that line 30,000 from 145,000 to 175,000.
I see that, but, I'm into hours.
It's 70 cents. I believe.
Okay. And that's the state mandated, correct?
Yes, and also in accordance with the city's non-rep policy, which does delineate hourly rates for different part-time employees.
Okay.
Overtime, we increased 55,000 to 65,000. And that's just based off historical, what we've seen this year. And then also in taking into account the contractual increases next year. The increase in 303-24-21, $10,000 is the anticipated increased cost of chemicals for the course next year. The increase in 24-30 of $8,000 is for the pro shop, as Josh Rubus had mentioned. Utilities, we did increase $10,000 based off what we've seen this year for costs. I will note that the 405 rentals GASB 87 account is accounting for the accounting rule changes. I know I'm going quick, I apologize. So I would, the negative 65,133, just that is for accounting purposes. Rentals for equipment, that is the golf carts, and we kept just about all the other accounts the same.
Any questions from the council members? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Right,
Oh, capital,
where you go?
capital.
Capital plan. Great. You're out there working all the time. You're doing wonderful things with that land out there. Is there anything that you think of that the city should be looking at moving forward in the future in terms of maybe big fixes or anything you want to do with that course?
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Just some more cart path work. We'd also like to look at possibly expanding the short game area. There was a few things that we had to cut out of the master plan, this kind of previous project. Some more drainage.
Yeah.
Possibly pond on number 9 and the pond on 14, 15, like to expand that. This was a good test this year. We were able to see how well the drainage worked, and it's a good year for that.
We certainly were tested with all the rain. I was really impressed with the way the course held up. And the way the ground soaked it up, took the water away quickly. Which led to all those extra days we play golf. So I thank you both for your hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
Chair,
Capital, please. Council President.
just a request, on 18. We need to do something about those bunkers, for the women there. Place that I think brought.
I have a suggestion. Don't hit them in the bunkers, and you don't have to hit them out of the bunker. Right.
God bless you.
We're going to discuss the capital plan
86.
on the golf course.
Oh, sorry.
267.
267. Sorry, yep. I got it.
So we see the $1 million for this year. I know it probably had all intentions to go into the annex. There's another question. Greg, would the BD benefit if there was an add-on to your building right there? You put the equipment right there with you guys service instead of down in the annex.
Yeah, that's something we've talked about, having it all in one building. It'd be nice to have it all in one building above, correct?
Oh, and then, how big a building would you need? Metal building.
Yeah, we would just need double the size.
Is that what you have there? No, we don't got that annex to other uses as well. Any other type of process.
That would be my preference. That everything in one complex.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, so. All right, so the million in 2024. I know that was originally planned to be annexed. I'm hoping that that has maybe transitioned a little, that we could. That we, okay, that's what I'm hoping it would go to, because originally when I heard about the meeting, it was supposed to go and fix a roof, to repair a slate roof or whatever it was.
No, that repair is the 2025. That 1 million is never for the roof repair. That's
Right,
the
okay.
2.1 and 25 is
Yeah,
what that.
that's good. I'm hoping that they will do something to improve the atmosphere and the capacity, the ability for people to come in and park up. Chris, was that RFP ever sent out? Did we ever send out?
For anything.
Yeah, spring. Thank you. That works.
Sure.
Council President.
I know Greg, you and I have spoken because you needed some equipment, so during the year, the council appropriated money for additional equipment, but then you also had said that the first piece of equipment was the back order. Where are you on the orders and, yeah, I know it's a tough atmosphere out there.
Yeah, we received two pieces. There was some need for the other side of recreation, so they received one of the pieces, we received the other. Proposing the second piece to come for next year. So we're back to the square one. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Any other questions, council members? Okay. Once again, I'll say thank you very much. Enjoy your night.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
Jimmy called me Jeff, by the way. I'm not Jeff.
Oh, you know what? Okay, that's about how your brother pretty much started football, going into a firehouse. Yeah. What about thinking about that?
I didn't notice that. Josh is like.
Hey, I just said, hey, Josh, I just said, hey, he knows what.
I understand. I did.
I didn't even realize that.
He doesn't listen.
These meetings go way too long. You guys keep us way too long. Let's keep moving forward here. All right, Andy, let's get into part. Kevin, all right, I know Kevin's already on the table.
Page 130. It's not much changes at all in 73. That is quite literally the department that houses Mr. Graver as supervisor of the Parks Department and the 7140. So if we go to page 133. Contractual increases have resulted in the permanent salaries line. I do want to note that in prior proposed budgets, we have deferred hirings for vacant positions throughout DPW. You will not see any deferred hiring dates this evening for any vacant positions currently in DPW. I had a conversation with Kevin about doing that. Kevin brought up a very good operational point that there are, if you have a deferred hiring date, that we used to defer them really till April 1st to get through the winter months. They wouldn't start then looking to hire until March. And by that time, the employment pool for those positions had been taken up by other private companies or other governmental entities that hire those labor type positions or things of that nature. So we have fully funded them for the year, which will allow them to continue to look to hire and not have to pause that process with a deferred hiring. Temporary salaries, we kept the same. Overtime, a bump based off contractual increase along with prior year's usage. You'll see a variety of increases in the small tools, equipment, and other materials and supplies, just to maintain the city's parks, especially as these improvements to the various parks are completed. And again, similar to what we saw in golf, I would please disregard account 405 rentals Gatsby 87, as that is lease account for accounting principles that we have to follow.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Chair,
Councilmember Natalie Wolf?
for the temporary salaries, Andy, I noticed they're the same. Did you take into account, are there any like minimum wage increases that would apply for this or no?
So there would be, those would impact that. We kept it the same because we've been under budget in that account for the last several years. So keeping it the same and using the same hiring history, and even if it was increased by several, one or two additional individuals, there would still be enough of an appropriation in the account.
And are those often, is it just, we don't fill all the temporary positions? Is that what's going on typically?
Correct.
Hopefully this year we won't have that problem.
Council President?
Angie, how much did we use out of that line? this year?
$21,000. To date.
Kev, do you still have temporaries on?
Yeah, we still have two that are on. They usually are gone by the before the church. They only have another pay period.
Any other questions?
Chair,
Councilmember Mann?
consultant services is lifeguards for Boys and Girls Club?
No, anything related to the pool is in A 7310. 7110 for. It's lawn mowing services for the cemeteries and Riverfront Park.
Tree removal also in that category?
No, we run that out of streets.
How many people do we have? How many outside companies we have doing cemeteries?
One,
One?
when we did it, CLC, that goes through procurement.
And what is the reasoning for having Riverfront Park be mowed by a consultant rather than our staff?
It was taken over once they redid the park. You don't know why, but that's why they've been doing it. But the cemeteries, it takes our guys way too long.
Yes. Is given staffing and workload, is Riverfront Park something that would make sense for your department to take back over? So that you have more control over it?
It's a possibility, yeah. We could, if we have enough staffing and enough people that can work on those mowers.
Do you have enough staffing?
Not yet. Working.
I know that briefly in the planning meeting, we were talking about One Monument Square and like Sage Park is maintained by Sage College. So it's a city park and, you know, part of the deal, the cut and the responsibilities cut with Hoboken and Brownstone for One Monument Square would be the maintenance of Riverfront Park. That was the topic that came up. And so that might be something that's on the table as that project moves forward. It was my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong.
I defer to Dylan on that,
Okay. Yeah.
but I do remember there being a conversation about it.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if there are any other institutions where we have parks nearby. That like specifically thinking about RPI, because, you know, they have some student housing next to Prospect Park and, you know, their contribution to the city as part of the Troy Redevelopment Foundation is 1/3 of $450,000. And so like maybe looking at other parks that are adjacent to RPI, and maybe that's something that we could open up a conversation and have them look at maintaining. as a contribution to the city rather than in addition to what they're paying for the Troy Redevelopment Foundation. And taking some of the burden off of your department so that the improvements that have been made in parks can be maintained and built on. So I don't know if that's something that, obviously conversation that you would be glad to be part of.
So I think we would make note of that to have with the new administration that's coming on. I do think we want to have a conversation. There is, in my opinion, there's an advantage with Prospect in particular of having a staff member there all the time.
Yeah.
Which we do. So I think we would definitely have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
We put that on the list to talk about with the new administration.
Yeah, and Beekman Park, 10th Avenue, some of the market parks, they might be ones that having a negotiation with RPI, they're there. It's within within their student population base. And so there's been like shared incentives. And it also means, my hauling of equipment around and around and around, especially for pocket parks.
Councilmember Conley Wilson.
For the consultant services for the lawn mowing, is there like a schedule or anything that you give in terms of like how frequently folks they should be mowing the lawns and all that, specifically around the cemeteries?
The cemeteries are mowed once a week. I'm sure it's either Wednesday or Thursday. I think
Okay,
it's once a week and they have a fall and a spring.
okay. Yeah, recently I just heard that the Mount Ida Cemetery, that kind of needs some more attention, but we can connect on offline if you want to figure that out.
Any other questions? Council members? Okay, Andy? Move on.
Page 137 is well, that is exclusively the utility cost of the Knickerbocker ice. And then moving on to page,
Hold on. Before you move on.
Andy, I was just curious, is the ice rink ever open for public use or anything like that?
We have more public use in the winter time.
Mhm.
We have Lansingburg Royals, there's the lacrosse team, the Lady Royals are coming in. Hampton County Girls Softball will be coming in this winter. And then we also use it for training
Mhm.
for the police, fire department. And that's about it.
So is there any hours for like public open skate? Is what I'm asking.
There's no ice.
No. Oh. Okay. Slow kind of moment for me. Okay. I would love that to be open at some point, but I know lots of people that would want to speak on that. So even if it was just during the summer or something like that, I think folks would want to cool off.
Sure.
Council President.
I have, and actually council members still join me, at one event where National Grid sponsors, the Boys and Girls Club and, kids that would not normally go ice skating, an opportunity up at Fair Park, and it's the Youth Hockey Association, Steve, I forget his last name for some reason, but Steve and the folks at the Youth Hockey League Association, who leads for partner with National Grid, and it's a really awesome time. They have pizza for the kids and everything, but they provide skates, they provide helmets, and they have the horses and the chairs and the ice rink, and they're out there for an hour, and it's awesome. And they bought the kids from the Boys and Girls Club to the ice rink. So I've been to 2 in the past year, and I know 2 was that one, but they're really cool. And I know they're trying to do more. I just
That's just a potential revenue.
Limberman, I think, Popeye too.
Well. You say potential revenue source, but years it was an operation with losing money. So it really, it was a cost to the taxpayer. And the benefit was, I wouldn't have a problem with that cost if it was Troy residents that were in the building, but 85% of the people in that ring were not even from Troy, there were teams coming into play there. So Trojans were getting a lot of use out of it, and there was very minimal free skating time. And it was in such disrepair that we would have to invest millions of dollars to bring it back. It didn't seem to, just didn't seem logical to do that at that time. I don't know about the board, but somebody else will take that on the chair and then they can decide what they want to do. We should do something, some type of athletic building, some type of, I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of bright people, somebody out there must have a great idea. Let's listen to them all and find out what really works. But we should utilize it, put it into a service again for our community and for the youth in our community. So I'd like to see that happen move forward, but I just don't want you to get the wrong idea about the revenues coming out of there.
Yeah, I just know, with Albany, their skating rink, that's very popular, and you often can't even get some skates. So, there is a demand for it, it's just whether or not it's open to the public, how we're advertising it, how we're getting it out to folks, like students, things like that. I think there's a lot of folks my age are really interested in night skating, so.
I'll tell you back, just to keep this conversation going, back when I was a kid, they would flood the field down at Knickerbocker Park. They'd have a big bonfire on one side and a barrel on the other side with a fire going. We'd skate all over. The kids, they'd have these, like, they'd make 3 rows where you have 3 different ice skating. One they'd use for hockey. One people would go and do the ballerina stuff, and then other people, kids would just go out there and just hate at each other. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah.
Ice skating.
Figure skating.
Don't crazy. Anyway, I was just thinking, so we could do something if we wanted to, we could. God, we have enough water breaks, we are spend money in water. Flood that field in the winter and really create a place where the communities can come and enjoy some time.
I think there might be some insurance liability there, but I'm all for the idea, you know.
So just like, okay, moving on.
Page 145, Youth Bureau, and Megan is here from,
Chair,
Council President.
yep, just one quick question, Tab. The 3 laborers that, are not filled, what are we doing to try to reach out to get these filled, and what are the falls?
It's a labor. There's no
High school degree or, no? Okay,
really. I have
just
one,
ready and we're,
yeah, I have one potential guy right now. I'd like to get him in for the winter. And see what happens there. I mean, January, February, start really get the good look in.
okay.
Councilmember Soriento.
With those labor positions, because I know that there are no minimum quals, but so have you ever ran into a problem though with, like, are you requiring still, under, although there's no minimum requirements, but still requiring a driver's license on those? And if not, like, have you experienced, any type of, issues like where they're trying to get driver pay or something like, because
I've never had that issue. I have had issues where I have had people able to drive, which
Mhm.
causes a whole other issue.
Yeah.
Like, the guy that they're normally with isn't in. That's. So having a license is kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just. Brainstorming here, just wondering. Thank you.
Chair,
Council President.
Andy, on ice rings, I don't know if you're flying out for that, but 137, I did have is the gas and electric. It's up, can you tell us today, what we've spent on that?
Can I check it and get back to you? I wanted to check one thing.
No,
Uh,
I'm kidding, of course, of course. Thank you. Chair,
Councilmember Med.
Andy, if we're looping back over to this, but for the parks, recreation and events, a 7150. It's a really small,
So there's a bill that's in the wrong account that I gotta move, that we found after we printed, but we were assembling the document,
gotcha,
found out that there's something paid out of the wrong account, so we're gonna get that moved, and that won't be in the final document.
gotcha. And then just sort of talking about the kinds of like the events revenue that does come into the expenses for those events. Does that end up falling under Parks and Recreation, or does it end up under a different part?
Goes back into the general, fund.
It goes back to the general fund.
With the caveat being to that. HBO's filming, they reimburse costs, so HBO's filming. Particularly in the. Well, both years that they filmed for HBO, it was unknown the magnitude, how much it would be. So what we ended up doing was giving the money back, we gave it back to the budget line. The other items that the police department will budget in their overtime line for events, so we'll budget the offsetting revenue for that.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering, looking forward in future budget development, you know, events cross a lot of departments. I know when there's film, you know, all the modern HBO, the traffic was taking down signs, putting up signs. And that is bringing a lot of revenue into the city, both direct to the city, but then also businesses and people that are working that, but, you know, one thing that the city of Troy, in terms of our permitting for events, that's a limiting factor for us. Is that we require individual vendors to have insurance, which raises that cost and washes, where we could be having more events throughout the city in our neighborhood. It is actually a pretty big limiting factor and something that other municipalities do not do. And Kevin, if this doesn't end up falling under your department, and doesn't really have a good home, you know, I just want to raise the point. But I know, like, you know, one of the things that I think all of us are very dedicated to is having more of these opportunities for people to come together in our neighborhood, and these Italian marketplace, Powers Park, and other places throughout the city. That is something that is policy that's in place that is unique to Troy and limits what we can do and limits that revenue that comes. So I don't know if there's a place in the budget where those special events really fall. But it is in the department
Go to page 8.
for the revenues.
Yeah, so we budgeted 87,020.89, we budgeted. Or I'm sorry, it's 20,89,503, we budgeted $75,000 special event reimbursement. And I will note the insurance requirements for events. In the code, I can't speak to if it's in the code or not in the code, but I will say that conversation needs to start right now with the corporation council. And that's not to say that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's where that conversation starts.
Yeah.
Is what level of insurance are we requiring to
Right. 'Cause-
protect the cities? I don't disagree with you, but the other side of that is what liability are you exposing the city to, and what is the risk tolerance the city wants to take on?
Right.
To start limiting, to even limit insurance requirements, much less waive them at home.
Yeah, we are probably at the most granular level right now where somebody that's selling t-shirts has to carry an insurance policy. And that creates a higher cost for them, and they're more likely to go to a different city to do that. Than to come to Troy. And so that is those events are business incubation and a key part of economic development in the community. So it's just, I just want to make sure it's out there. and sort of talk to Jim.
Great.
Thank you. Ed.
Okay, you say Joe.
Chair.
No, very.
Well, here, I just wanted to note that Albany, you are able to, sponsor. Like the organizing entity can sponsor the other vendors, so there's still that protection, it's just that that's being sponsored through, the insurance is being sponsored through. A different entity, so that's something to think about, but like Andy said, something that we need to talk to Corporation Council about, I think it's a good idea though. Especially for the larger.
Well, when you're talking about event insurance, I'll just mention eventhelper.com, located in California. They can insure in all 52 states. They can insure probably everywhere, but anyways, they're reasonable. They don't. Oh. It's just for people that can't afford insurance for event insurances, it's not a yearly thing. They charge you for the day and the hours that you're in the event, and that's what you pay. And it's very reasonable, but people need to reach out. Sorry, Shane. Turn this off. Anyways, I'm just saying it's a good thing to look at for somebody who is really hurting for insurance and needs something to get by.
Absolutely, definitely reference both.
It won't be as good as Seamus, but it will be insurance.
Chair.
Lovely, Chris.
Chair.
Council President.
Yep, just real, quick, the turkey trot, when, I know we just approved the agreement last year. How many years is that, Andy?
Need a minute on hold.
Okay, no problem. I never really understood how it was estimated, what we get back from that and all that good stuff, but I know it's way in the weeds.
There's a part of the contract that sets the amount that
Formula,
flat 15.
oh, it is flat, okay. Okay, you could.
Contract term,
Here.
1 year with the option to extend up to 4 years.
Okay, so this would be 1 year. Because I know we did it at the last minute last year.
We would have extended. We would have had to do an extension.
Or maybe it was, I don't know, I remember George was hurrying, he called me and.
Okay, all right, any other questions? Moving
I'll
on.
Put in my
Youth
notes
services?
to follow up.
Megan, what's come up table? How are you?
How are you?
Page 145. Permanent salaries are contractual changes, and then 409, and I will note, I do believe I still need to send the 2022 breakdown for the subject pool. And I'm just going to anticipate the question, and we will include 2023 when we send that out as well. But the $260,000 for consultant services is made up of the $11,000 in the annual payment to VROT, $21,000 annually to the Troy and Lansford Boys and Girls Clubs, in addition to CYO, and then the remaining balance will be from the substrate pool. And then with that said, I know Megan has some stuff that she would like to go over.
So, Andy, the South Trade pool costs $228,000 a year.
No, so it's,
So you should
260.
21K.
so. We're approximating up to $186,000 to operate South Florida pool next year. $11,000 for VROT, $63,000 broken out to the Lansingburg Boys and Girls Club, Troy Boys and Girls Club, CYO.
63.
And then the balance of 186 would be for the South Florida pool.
You want emailing us that, Andy? Thank you.
Everything else looks just straightforward. So, Megan, excuse me. So, excuse me, I know you do, just wait a second. Megan, months ago, the council asked for an update on activity in the youth coordinator's office and what you do during the year to find out what programs you're running, who you're reaching out to. We never really received any. I'm just curious, did anybody ever reach out to you and ask you to do that for the council?
Jim, that's my fault.
Okay.
They sent it over to me, but I lost it on my desk, yeah.
Okay.
So, but that's one reason why we have Megan here tonight to talk about.
No, that's
the
cool.
duties.
That's good. No, I'm glad. I just wanted to know where to head, you know? All right, so Megan, tell us about your year in youth coordinating in our communities.
Sure.
Tell me what you've accomplished, who you met, and what your partnerships are.
Sure, absolutely. Nice to meet you all. So I've been with the city for a little over 2 years now. Better portion of my first year was spent mostly networking and just trying to get to know all of our youth organizations within the city. And I feel like my second year has been mostly me trying to build those relationships with those organizations. Some of them include, we work with Troy Look, we work with SNUG, Rensselaer County Department of Youth. I sit on the Knickerbocker board as their city representative, as well as the youth advisory board for the county. We've done a lot of work with Kevin Pryor and Jerry Ford, a lot of work with CEO. We've partnered with United Way and MVP this year, and we plan to continue those partnerships.
What events have you put together, or brought the youth together? What are the events that you've done?
So I don't put together events by myself. We partner with existing organizations to help them strengthen their programming.
But, right, but I'm just saying, so you just engage with them, what's your part of engagement with them?
So we offer support in terms of funding, in terms of help, just showing up to the events and helping with anything that they need. We work kind of to bridge that gap of communication between the city and our youth organizations. And actually the Detroit Youth Alliance, which is a group that was created at CEO by Erin Hernandez. She is their chief of operations, I believe. She has been exceptional at bridging that gap and helping me and being that sounding board for me that I needed. And we have had a lot of organizations throughout the city interested in joining that youth alliance. It's kind of a hub where we all meet. We meet every other Wednesday, kind of just talk about data, things that are going on, sharing events, helping each other with that funding and with whatever they need. So that's been really instrumental in pushing this goal forward for me. I would like to strengthen my relationship with the school district, as well as the pocket parks, the neighborhood groups, the pocket parks. That's my goal this year.
Are you in communication with the superintendents and the school boards?
I have had a couple service level meetings with Antonio. I'm sorry, I don't, his name is Tinny. Okay, yeah, Tinny. About summer programming. We had an initial conversation back in, gosh, I think it was June now. So we were kind of prepping to bring programming into the city for next summer.
One more question, then everybody else go ahead.
Sure.
What's your 2024, what's your goal? What are you thinking, like, where are you looking to go in 2024? What's a project you're looking to bring over the top?
Good question. I feel like I would like to, like I said, I would like to build my relationship with the school district. That's been a little challenging. But I mean, our nonprofits have been great. And the Knickerbocker board has honestly been wonderful. But just continuing those events with them, and also kind of, right now I'm participating with the events as part of the Knickerbocker board, obviously the city representative, but I would like to see us have more of a Troy youth specific, table or whatever it may be, depending on the event.
Right, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Council members?
Sure.
Council President?
I actually, before moving to Megan, had a question on the consultant, so we'll go back to that after Megan, if you don't mind. Not the consultants, the youth agency. I had a quick question. Megan, I love hearing that. Do you mind, just send us an email and all that? That would be
Absolutely.
awesome.
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Any other council members?
Sure.
Council member?
So in my other job, I do a lot of work with farm to school. And, I also noticed that recently the urban agriculture, urban farming, those grants recently just came out from New York State. Do you do any grant applications in your work?
I haven't yet, no, but I would like to.
Okay, great. So I'll send you some things to look at. And I know that the farm to school program, it's about $5,000. There's coaches that you're able to, you get like coaching mentorship, the school committees get. So it's not a lot of money, but it's enough to get something started. And I know there's a couple local schools in Shaker High and Schenectady that's already doing some of that work. So I'll send that over to you. And if you ever want to chat.
That would be
let me know.
awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, council members? Councilmember Mann?
We do have our part-time summer jobs for that, in the Parks Department. What are you doing to help spread the word, to youth about job opportunities with the city?
So as far as the Parks Department
Or
goes,
any department?
any department?
Yeah.
I haven't explored it at the other department, in terms of part-time, for youth, but I know within the Parks Department, it gets a little tricky with like operating machinery. There's a couple requirements, I believe that youth may not.
I mean, for jobs, like looking at our vacancy list.
Yeah.
And having conversations with those department heads or HR to determine which jobs might be appropriate
Sure.
for you. And then, obviously, like, there's a lot of ways of communicating with youth today on social media that is probably different than any other demographics. Have you established social media for the department?
That was actually one of the first things that I asked about when I was hired a couple years back. I didn't have any jurisdiction there. We have created a youth services page on the Troy website. I'm still waiting to be trained by IT on how to get in there and navigate it by myself, so I can add what I would like to do with that calendar. So, other youth organizations can have their events, just because it's hard for me to know what's going on all around the city, and I do miss a lot of events because of that. So that would be really helpful. But in addition, that would be definitely a place where we could do something like that for youth employment.
What was the barrier that you ran into that prevented you from creating with social media for outreach?
I'm not sure. I just was given the kibosh. I don't have an answer.
Because that seems like one of the most obvious ways. I mean,
I agree.
yeah, and also, as you're thinking of calendars, which is a great thing, and the Troy Bid now has a calendar on their website, which has a lot of family friendly, and then obviously public library as well. And have you had a chance to work with Troy Public Libraries, either branches?
We partner with them to create craft kits for one of the pocket parks. It's the Lots of Hope Park with the Osgood Neighborhood Room. So we've done that a few times with them. They love it. We just go pick them up. They have them ready for us. They're wonderful. So just the one branch.
Yeah, I feel like you being empowered to do that direct outreach to youth is one very appropriate in your role, and also probably will open up even more resources.
Right.
And definitely really interested in working on grants, because, I think that's one of the other things that we've seen throughout the year is the ability to bring in grants, increase capacity, and the city has the ability to be that ongoing multi-year administrator, and then, with their miscellaneous special revenues fund, that tracking also, that takes some of that, all the I's and T's dotting.
Right.
So, hopefully you and Andy can talk about how pursuing those grants can become a bigger part of your part.
Absolutely. I agree.
Great. Anyone else?
Sure.
Council President.
Yep, Megan, one of the things I would like to see more in 2024 is being out there in the community. I, know that you connected with Kevin and a couple of people like on permits and have helped them, but I think I'd like to see a little more proactiveness, like at some of the events, just on off hours, things like that. I mean, do you?
I'm gonna be there Saturday all day. Halloween event, I'm at all those events, so
Okay.
I definitely am out.
Okay, and I just think that outreach, definitely, we could just do a little more, and I know.
So-
Talk to me.
Sorry, I just want to get a better understanding of what you mean by outreach, like door to door,
Just, attending various events and, like, I have talked to some organizations that, I think, some folks know you, some folks don't, and
Sure.
maybe just, getting out a little more. So-
Okay, I agree. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And I just had a last question for Andy on the consultant services. Remember Ray and a couple of organizations were having a tough time getting a check. Is there anything that we can do to expedite those a little better? Or was that just a one-time glitch or,
CYO,
CYO?
I'll say generally speaking, especially with regards to the one from this week, it's helpful when they sign and send back their agreements. And then we get that processed, and we did have a conversation with that other individual. We did not know that, but when we send them out, they need to turn them back quicker, and then we can look to certainly be more efficient. I know the CYO one has gotten held up the last few years. Maybe we send them out earlier, but we're trying to, that's been something we've been working through the last several years.
Thanks, Vicky. Thanks, and thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, council? Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy your night. Andy Pistone,
Page 62.
third.
Unfortunately, John Kiley is not feeling well and is not here this evening. Who's the supervisor of the department? Permanent salaries is contractual. We did adjust materials and supplies up. Just based off of what historically we have expended out of the account. Utilities, those amounts are citywide for the most part, so that's why those appropriations have always been so high. I believe for the last time this evening, the rentals gas be 87, just disregard that. The appropriation for rentals is for City Hall, that was done in concert with the deputy mayor with regards to the City Hall lease. And consultant services, we increased just based off of what those are escalating costs annually. Most of that is for the ongoing maintenance agreements with Siemens, which is how that appropriation was determined.
Okay, can you get started, Chair? Can you take a step back, 2 steps back? Sorry.
Rentals,
Mhm.
so that was based off conversations with the deputy mayor about the potential cost of the annual lease for City Hall.
And at least has been out, right, since December of last year.
Correct. I can't speak to much, but I can't speak to like the status of it. But I would defer.
Any other questions, council? All right, Andy, let's move on.
I will note, just because I have it up, Turkey Trot. 4 1-year extensions. Extension 1 is 2023,
Okay. That's fine.
so there's 3 years left, so it would expire after the 2026 Turkey Trot. Assuming it's extended.
All right, Got it. Thank you.
Moving on to the garage, page 66. Chris Hart is here, who is the new supervisor of the central garage. Chris, how are you? How are you?
Chair, can we go back to City Hall? Since Chris is. here. Hi, Chris. What's the status, First Columbia is just going to get through the year? I know, they have wanted, renewal, upgrades, et cetera. Is that on hold?
They still want upgrades and a renewal. Corporation Council is in conversations with them. So I have to check with Rick to see where those conversations are.
I would strongly suggest you include the council on that. I will tell you, for me at least, I can't speak for other council members. Something as huge as that, to come to a lame duck council in December, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work for me. I will not even look at it. It's just, it's not right. So, I'm just gonna throw that out there. Thank you.
Back to garage, Andy.
Page 66. The risk of being redundant. Permanent salaries are contractual. For the rest of the departments this evening, the exception of one, which we can address then, any changes in 101, with the exception of code enforcement, are contractual. So I don't want to, unless the council wants to keep hearing me say it. If I don't bring it up, it's contractual. Did some right sizing to the parts account 30457 and repair account 30458, just to align it with what the spending is that we've been seeing, which is more parts and internal repairs as opposed to outsourcing repairs themselves. Other than that, it's fairly status quo.
This is raw film,
We have, one mechanic still. Yeah.
And, here.
There's if you go to page 68, you'll see the auto mechanic, the second auto mechanic's current salary is 0. That's a vacant position, and the auto mechanic helper.
Yep.
That actually was just filled,
The auto mechanic helper.
yes.
Chris, anything you want to tell us about the garage, or anything you want to tell us about the operation? What's your focus for 2024?
Hopefully get it running a little bit smoother. But as of right now, I believe that it's 4 months, and even then, there was only 2 mechanics at the time. When the supervisor left, I took over. I was one of the mechanics.
Can you speak into the mic, please? If you hear?
I was one of the mechanics before I took over. Once the supervisor left, that left us with 1 mechanic for a couple months, so spending got a little high around that time, but since the new hire, we've been fixing a lot more in-house with what we're capable of.
What are some of the things you're looking to smooth out, that you think you can adjust? The next part.
More just once I get that position filled, I don't have to step out from my office, wait for emails and everything like that, and still continue renting. Basically just that and just filling the position basically.
All right, great, thank you, appreciate it. Council members, any questions?
Chair.
Council member Men.
In terms of getting that position filled so that, it's saving us money when we do it in-house. Do you feel empowered to go and work your network and the people and within your profession? to help advertise that job and to get it filled so that you can get the right person.
So I've asked, before if we could, and I was new into it, I didn't want to step on any toes. How come the city didn't have like an Indeed specific recruiter? A lot of people nowadays just go right online and they don't know to go to TroyNewYork.gov. I haven't heard anything from that yet, but I've reached out to Hudson Valley, given our application, stuff like that, but. Our new assistant was hired in-house and just transferred from sanitation, so he's working out very well. So is the other mechanic. Other than that, I can. Try to go garage to garage, but I don't wanna. Angry any other supervisors.
Thank you for going to Hudson Valley because they do have such a strong program. And it's really great to like how people who are starting off in their career find a place here and hopefully a lifelong home with the city. So thank you for taking that initiative and hopefully we can get you those postings up on Indeed and ZipRecruiter and those contemporary ways of hiring.
I personally think Indeed, the recruiter, or anything like that would help every department. tremendously.
Yeah.
We're looking into that.
Chair,
Council President.
Thanks again, Chris. It sounds like you're moving forward very efficiently and nicely and sounds good. Sounds like a good fit. What about like BOCES in the high school? Have we connected with any of those folks?
So a couple years back, we had a couple, I don't know, week or two tryouts with BOCES. It was, none of those credits, no, they didn't get paid or anything, but, still learning, it was a little bit of a risk. They didn't know what to do, how to do it, and we're dealing with heavy
Too
machinery.
much time.
So,
Yeah.
and for one of my guys to go off and to have to help him, just kind of just setting back our time, so to speak. But I mean, I came from West Star, so
Yeah.
I'm more than likely, or more than happy to reach
It's
out.
a
to
great
them. Yeah,
program.
it is.
It's a great,
It is.
great program. Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Any other questions, council members? Great, thank you. Andy?
Page 96, traffic.
I'm so sorry, Chair, Chris. I'm so
No, President.
sorry, I'm so sorry. I was looking at my notes from last year and I know Sean was, you know, he definitely was there longer and he said that he had applied for, I think, an electric vehicle grant of some sort. And are you aware of any of that? I think he called it PVIP or
Yeah, so we got the leaf, I believe, right? We had the leaves, and then, one of our city hall pool vehicles is, a hybrid,
okay.
and, getting electric vehicles is tough, because we can repair the brakes and simple stuff, but when it gets into the whole batteries and the whole EV system, you need a whole specific, certifications for that, and
Really?
high voltage is very dangerous. So if anything happens, like with our lease batteries, we have to put it out
Bless you.
and it gets very expensive with the lithium battery, very expensive. But I mean, I'm open for, like I was saying, we do
Yeah.
tires, brakes, stuff like that,
Right,
but
but the,
anything else past that is beyond our qualifications.
interesting, okay. Thank you so
Sure.
much, Chris.
Thank you.
Have we applied for any others to date or?
Again, I've only been in 4 months,
Right,
so I can look into it, of course, yes.
cool, cool.
So, Chris, the least electric vehicle that we have, that gets maintenance by the dealership, right? The police department.
Not the main.
Don't we have a couple electric cars in the city? They're not leased?
Oh, it's a Nissan Leaf.
Oh,
Like,
Leaf.
Leaf.
Oh.
That's the name of the vehicle. Sorry.
So my question is, I've heard a lot of horror stories about these electric vehicles, the expense and trying to keep the maintenance. And then, dumping the batteries, which is a very big. expense. Do you feel that there's a spot moving forward where we're gonna have to have somebody who knows how to operate that kind of vehicle for bringing them in? Or do you think we should keep like an outside?
As in like servicing the batteries and stuff.
Yeah, to service it properly.
That would be a very high, very expensive, yeah. I mean, I can't speak on somebody else's, qualifications for it. But yeah, you would need some qualifications to work on,
Specialized mechanic for that.
just on the batteries, the lithiums and all that.
Yeah, good to know. Thank you. Appreciate
Sure.
that. Oh, you're not done yet.
Sorry,
Oh, we will.
this might be a question for Andy. How much have we spent year to date on training for this department?
Zero.
All right, so you guys have a training budget. I don't know if it's gonna cost $3,000 or more, but that might be something to look forward to for 2024. I'm not sure if NYSERDA has any grants or anything in regards to helping you train that, but I can send you over their page. But I do think, you know, with them phasing out gas, I see that electric vehicles are gonna be coming forward and then
But they're like a
yeah, and then there's also plenty of money for EV charging stations, so, you know, anything EV. I don't know all the answers, but I can try and get some.
Any other council members? Chris, you're okay. Walk away again.
Chair, hold on a second.
Are you- Wayne, what now? Hi, Bill, how are you? Good. Oh, traffic.
So the one major item of note in this budget is facility upgrades, which, as we discussed last evening, the current budget reflects budget amendments. Sorry, Amy. So the current budget reflected facility upgrades is $259,000. It does include amendments and purchase orders that were encumbered. Sure, Bill will speak to the somewhat preposterous lead time. But it's items that were procured last year that have not been delivered yet. So the 259,000, the original budget for this year was 150,000. While that has been reduced to 100, what we're going to be doing is, I talked to Bill about this yesterday, is if the budgetary appropriation in the first week of December is there's $70,000 remaining in the account, as opposed to losing that appropriation. We will bring forward a budget amendment to create a capital project for traffic light replacements in the city and transfer the remaining appropriation first week of December to the capital projects funds. The city maintains that appropriation going into the following fiscal year. As of right now, that's about how much is left in the account. But that way, the city will have an annual budget appropriation in the general fund. And then annually, if the city continues to do that, push out to the capital fund of remaining funds. We would also have money available in the capital projects fund to address traffic light replacement long-term in the city, creating two pots of funding available, prior appropriations that are carried over to this other fund, in addition to the general fund appropriation. The other change in the budget was other materials and supplies, which was aligned to what was expended in the prior year.
So, Bill, is the problem with the appropriation of parts, is it like specific to like the boards and the boxes, or is it everything, the lights? Every time we try to go to order and get something, and is there a specific company we're using, or is there any other options to find those things? So they kind of
No, it's mostly the cabinets, Jim, and there's only a few companies that actually build them that we use, and the contractors, we all kind of use the same. I think Northeast Signal is they 6 states. And it's just really a supply line issue that started with the pandemic, just push everything back. Wood poles, lights, we can get that stuff all day long, but it's the handware cabinets
is the problem.
Yeah.
And there's probably 600 to 900 wires in these cabinets. You wouldn't think it would be that sophisticated for something that just switches lights back and forth, but everything talks to everything else. So yeah, so what we're trying to talk to Chris about it is actually buying 3 to 5 cabinets if I can, so I can have spares. So I can get any contractor to come out and put a wood pole in, span wire, put up the lights, that's no problem. If I have the controllers, we're done. You know,
I hate to break this with you, but while I'm thinking of it, on the top of Northern Drive, where the red lights are, and one pole that has those heavy electric wires, the pole is leading in and the wire's hanging lower now, the other part of the lights. They used to get a little bit, they look like they're leading really low.
Oh, I'll talk to Greg.
My son mentioned that today, he said, what is wondering after that?
I'll mention,
Back in the budget, okay. So. Can we get, I mean, how long will it take to get the 3 to 5 boxes to have? I mean, I agree to have it here, better what we're going through with some of these intersections. Being left,
I think they're starting to catch up, like Mill and Erie, it took 9 months for the poles themselves, the steel poles. We're gonna have that same problem with the Hill Street, the CDK project, that's gonna be 6 to 9 months. Wooden poles we can get, span wire, regular wire, electrical wire, all that stuff, lights, no problem. It's specialized poles that are the issue. We just had one, so Mill and Erie is going to be turned on November 2nd, so that should be up and running. And then Vandenberg and Campbell, we had an issue with the cabinet. It wasn't going to be, they didn't change it in the plans, so I had an old cabinet that can actually be mounted and used for that to accommodate the pedestrian signals. So that will be up and running. And my plan is hopefully for next year is to get Sherman and Campbell done and Donegal, and then I'll have an entire corridor leading right from all the way out from Falling Avenue, where the city comes in on Winter Street, all the way down. If you're going down Spring, Campbell, and that way down to 787, everything will be brand new. So that'll help traffic, I believe, you know, and that's one whole entire section of the city that we can kind of have to worry about again.
yeah. I know consistently calling you the lights and things that are out, and it's amazing, I can't imagine how many calls you get from all over the city.
Yeah, well, I still have 30 intersections that have mechanical controllers that were built in 1940s.
Yeah.
And they still run, and we're like watchmakers trying to fix them. So, you know, I said this, I think the mayor once, Chris, we were in a meeting, and said everybody goes through intersections and every day, and it's not a problem until they're not there. And then everybody goes out of their minds, rightfully so. It's a safety issue. So, hopefully within a few weeks, we're gonna look at 108th, Middleburg at 6th, Harrison at 1st, and then Jefferson at 4th will be hopefully soon after that. We're hoping it's all in the cabinets. We get the cabinets tomorrow, they'll be up within 2 weeks. So,
Great.
you know,
And Sharon,
Council members.
Sure.
Council President.
Yep, I was going to ask about Middleburg, I mean, and the one, 108.
108.
Oh my gosh, I mean, that's been 20 months, and I know it's not your fault. obviously.
Right, as a matter of fact, National Grid's gonna replace their pole on the other side because we attached to it. So there's actually a couple of them I got Grid upgrading their poles in conjunction with us. So, yeah, it's all waiting. As a matter of fact, that temporary light got hit 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we had to put that back up, and thank God it wasn't, actually Chris came over and we did a couple quick welds and we were all back. I don't want them there.
I know.
No, that
yeah,
Chris-
well,
no, Chris will,
I don't see welding. you know. Phil, while we're talking also, you know, it is budget related. Obviously, the LED switchover, we, you know, had some hiccups, et cetera. May I ask you, and this is not softball, nothing was prearranged here. Why were you not involved in that replacement program? Because this is like your background, correct?
So, yeah, so the street lights you're talking.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I offered, actually taught it at National Grid, we work on these all the time. You know, the street light is something. I think I have, how many poles down?
yeah,
I think I have 20 poles down.
we, seriously, Bill, I drove, I saw 3 that are down in just the last week. What is going on? And I know, like, who's overseeing our streetlight program? And I know operationally the deputy mayor, but there's got to be an on the street person. Doug Lilke, part-time. I love Doug. I know him. Something missing here.
Right, well, I've been starting to work with Bill Maloney and, looking at this,
Somebody else.
bringing up Ubiqua and finding out lights that he's actually troubleshooting, see what's going on with them. It's quite the process. I mean, to really operate streetlights, you would need at least two men in a truck, 2 employees in a truck to actually do these. So it's a full-time job. Frankly, I think.
Well, we're contracted that out.
Yeah, we're contracting it out. Yep, we have executive, we have DLC, and that's working out fairly well. I think stuff's moving along maintenance wise.
Starting to.
It took a while for us to get maintenance up and running, and I think that was part of the problem. So,
Yeah, I know.
yeah,
Andy, where is that whole maintenance program in the budget?
The contingency we had set in streetlight debt bond resolution was adequate enough to cover a lot of these replacements that are currently ongoing, so that's where it's currently housed.
But,
In the capital projects, not outside of the budget.
so it, but the funding is only there for how much?
I can look at that.
Because obviously, we're gonna have to continue the
Right.
maintenance program every year. Maybe,
Any other council members?
Sure.
Councilmember Min.
What is the lead time for steel poles?
6 to 9 months. Depending on size and load bearing, but usually there's not a lot of load on those because we're not doing anything much with lights and cameras. All the intersections we do put in now, we're not putting in loop detectors in the ground anymore either. State's going through all cameras and you can do much more with them. We don't have to worry about them. They're high tech. They can count cars. I can get traffic patterns. I can do a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't have AI. It doesn't learn patterns and change themselves. But we can look at that and start to change timing patterns.
Yeah.
If with this traffic.
And you, wood poles we can get immediately, so if we're missing.
For the most part.
For the, if we're, but it's not like a one-to-one replacement necessarily for, like, I'm thinking about Third Street by Jefferson, you know, we're missing a bunch of poles since they replaced the sign
For the street lights,
for the streetlight.
right, so that's part of that's the
That's-
bigger one. You want to, yeah.
So, that's under CDBG,
Okay,
and the delay with that is acquiring the poles.
Yep.
But
so 6 to 9 months and.
Carolyn and V have been working with DLC and executive. A few of them, executive, I think, had 4 poles in stock. And they are gonna put those up. But we're waiting on the rest.
And that lead time is helpful for when people call and they're like, where's my pole, where's my pole? And it's like, you can say, it could be up to 9 months, then there's slightly more forgiving.
They're not.
I know,
They're not.
I know, but hopefully they can yell at us more than anyone. In terms of your department also doing striping. And in terms of, I know during COVID, there were supply chain issues with getting appropriate paint. And then also some like interdepartment coordination in terms of, you know, we had one employee who was injured while we were striping.
Yeah, we had employee issues with people outside. We had long-term disabilities, you know, so we did have some things like that. Not excuses, but we did hit it hard at the end.
Yeah.
I am coordinated with the city of Troy, well, the Troy School District, work. But the Troy School District to do some of theirs. So next year, we're gonna hit the ground running with them. We're trying to upgrade, some of the budget I'm asking for is 3M. It's kind of a sticker that goes down and it stays, you know, it can stay for up to 3 to 5 years. And it's more reflective. It's something, it's a little more expensive, but I can lay down an intersection in, 2 hours.
Right.
Minimal, I could do half, I could do half. I don't have to have the traffic control that I do with painting, and with painting, it's just slow.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do as much as we can.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you've been really.
but the paint now we can get.
That's great.
So, yeah, it is.
uh,
And it's all water-based. There's no more oil-based paint. The only other paint you can use is epoxy paint. We don't have a machine for that.
And what's the advantage for an epoxy paint?
Epoxy paint lasts longer. That's what DOT uses on their highways. It's a heavier duty, but those machines are, I think those paint machines are 20,000. And you have, it actually mixes the epoxy and the paint on the machine as it puts it down. So if you ever see those like straight liner, they come with trucks, with, you know, 300-gallon tanks on them with
Yeah.
12 guys and, 12 employees that just come out and start painting. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We don't have that capability.
Good question. Any other council members?
Sure.
Councilmember Conley Wilson.
So I'm gonna hit the Jefferson Fourth a little bit more, just because in my district, right down the street from me, it's been down for about 2 years, I wanna say.
April of 2022.
Okay, so
I was there.
1.5.
I'm not trying to correct. it.
Yeah,
Just letting you know.
it felt like 2 years
It's
though.
right here.
Appreciate that. So the steel rods or steel poles, those are getting ordered, correct?
They're not, steel poles aren't going there, wood poles are going.
Wood poles are going.
Again, it's the cabinet issue.
Okay,
Yeah,
so what's the lead time for the cabinet purchasing that?
the same. So when that came in April 22, I had an estimate.
Mhm.
The estimate wasn't taken up on, that we didn't act on it. So we had that, and we had Adams and Adams and second, at Petroselli. So we turned that into an always stop because we felt that wasn't, we didn't need that. Everybody said, always stop would be good. On Jefferson the Fourth, what happened was the bottom got taken off. We put it on flash. And then because of the pole condition, the pole's lean, there's no place to go higher on the pole, raise the actual light. And it got hit, but they gave Hugh Jackson it there a few months ago, 2:00 in the morning. So now that's gone. So we got another estimate for that. So I'm hoping, now the cabinets are coming in, maybe 6 to 8 weeks, but it could be another 3 to 9 months, 3 to 6 months. So I'm working with the manufacturer. I have a call in for them. They're gonna try to expedite some for me directly from them. And that's probably one of the ones that I have to get in. Because there's nothing there.
For sure.
And down South Troy, it's all raceway, and they're moving my signs. There's construction going at that building that got hit. They moved my signs in, and, unless I drill them and bolt them into the ground, it's the only way, it's tough down there sometimes.
Yeah,
But it's dangerous.
yeah, for sure. I live right there, so
Yeah,
totally know. it,
no,
totally
believe
hear
me,
it.
I go through it every time and, I cringe. I
Yeah,
wish we could get it up.
It's really scary, but I appreciate the work. Can you just keep me updated on that? I really want to advocate for that. And then for the 70K that may be remaining in that account, how many boxes do you think we'd be able to purchase out of that or?
They're 18,000 apiece.
Okay.
For the smaller cabinets. I don't need big cabinets for those intersections. They're smaller, they're used them in New York City and Boston for a lot of the smaller intersections, Bronx, Brooklyn, they're basic, you're not gonna put a lot on them. Regular cabinets right now are just around $30,000 once it sits in the ground.
Have we,
It's significant.
yeah, have we looked into any of the bids that New York City are putting out for piggybacking on those? for the
They have an
small
entire
ones?
different system.
Okay.
Yeah, they.
Figured that would be the
Yeah,
case.
yeah, so they have an entire different system as far as, their traffic controllers and what they use.
Gotcha.
Even though they use the same type of system, it's a different type of cabinet.
Gotcha.
So,
Alright.
well, I mean, we're getting the state price on everything, so I believe we're.
They've done a good job, Bill's done a good job of using state contracts. I will note that New York City does not play in any sort of the same sandbox as us and cannot piggyback. Off of New York City contracts, you can use state contracts, but like the 3M that Bill was talking about, that's on state contract, so we were able to procure that. Yeah, that's the unfortunate part of New York City. Yeah, I've never seen anyone be able to piggyback on it. They have a whole different set of rules.
Yeah, I know. So, all different laws and all that. Great, I'm excited to see the, I hope that we can get the streetlight or traffic signals, like having our own capital funds and all that is really. good to hear.
So part of it down in South Troy is one of the main ones along with up in the Berg on Fifth Avenue. You look at those poles and you see that you look at a new pole and you look at those poles and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And you see those old green boxes, those are mechanicals. And, when they go, they flash. So in an intersection, if something goes wrong with an intersection, the controller says something's wrong and it sends it into flash. So that mitigates traffic. With these, nothing happens. They can stick green and yellow on one side, yellow on the other. They do anything you could possibly think of. So that's why it's imperative, long-term, we're gonna have to look at each of these intersections. And I mean, if it's a basic intersection, you're looking at 40 to 50,000 per. Just making it a basic intersection. So.
Yeah. Have we thought about, doing like kind of an assessment, like an audit of all the intersections that need that?
I have everything. And as a matter of fact, Siemens as part of the second part of the project was gonna come in and I believe they were gonna fund that or fund something along those lines with LEDs. And that does not come to fruition. I put together all sorts of, lights which have to be changed, what's inside of them. As a matter of fact, I can probably email you.
Yeah. Thank you. And then one last question for the Adams and Second, when you guys changed that into stop sign, did you guys? I guess I don't think that's a state, that's not a DOT road, right? So we didn't need to do an assessment or anything like that for that.
I just want to add that last year was the first time that we put funding aside for the traffic light replacement, and it was based on the conversations with Bill. And, in some cases that was for traffic light repair, and we're hoping to buy 3 additional cabinets, and Bill suggests, right, have the cabinets in stock. It's really my hope, though, that long-term, the funding that we put here can be used to replace some of those cabinets that are from the 1940s. So we can start to proactively, Bill has all that background and that knowledge. He can pick the intersections that need it most, and then we can start doing that $40,000 to $50,000 per intersection to actually replace those lights.
Any other council members?
Sure.
Councilmember Mann.
And have you seen any other methods of traffic calming that you think have been really effective? I know we don't have a city engineer right now. And so a lot of this, does fall on you and you have that expertise. Are there, we have the flashing crosswalk here, are there, and the speed bumps up the hill? Are there other forms of traffic calming that you think makes your life easier, or is has proven to be effective?
For traffic calming, we get asked to put up a lot of signs, slow children and stuff like that. And the people that speed around the city, and there seems to be more, they don't look at signs. They don't look at signs. So the only restrictions you'd be able to do is, and I think they're doing a good job of it, is restricting size of the lanes. If you notice that the CDTA bus lines, especially the bus plus, all the buses now, they go out to the corner, they don't bring them in anymore. They're actually out. So they want the buses to stop right there, pick up their passengers and go. It's no more pulling over and pulling back out. So that's kind of the way I think, from what I've seen from engineers, is that's what they're trying to do, is restrict lane size, that way. Because when you have wide open corridors, it just gives them that visual that they can go fast. If you're going down Second Street in South Troy, you're probably gonna do it a little bit differently than if you're going down Spring Ave in Troy, starting at the top, so this. But as far as speed bumps and stuff in the Northeast, I don't know how much of those things would actually work.
Just those
Besides-
snowflies.
Or
Just those snowflies.
that, right, exactly, and you can't pull them out. So, once they're there, so.
All right.
Yeah, I know that with striping and stuff, there are things that can be visually done, like there's in Schenectady and near their city hall, they basically painted their intersection way too wide road. But they've used paint and striping to sort of extend the sidewalk like a fake brick pattern and create a visual narrative the street to slow people down.
Does work. I mean, we've done that in King Street. That's kind of one of the plans, the way King Street was designed. Both of those lanes go down and to the left and then the one goes off to the right. So I just recently put in more arrows. So visually, when you come across Federal Street, you'll see those arrows knowing that that lane is going to be a right turn eventually. It's the right turn lanes to start to move appropriately. Like there, I think they should have been split with maybe an island, a paint island in the middle. So you see a really highly visual right turn and a highly visual left turn. So we can do something. But again, some of that would have to be engineered, I think, too. You know, because we wouldn't want to just paint something and then have an accident, because the first thing somebody's going to do is what turns you're going to go. Who told you to do it that way? Where's the study? Where's the, right, the engineering part? So we have to do some of this stuff carefully, you know. Yeah. Where no parking zones are, like Prussian Social Services, we painted yellow curbs and then painted a yellow island, and it stopped a lot of people from parking way up into Hoosick Street, which that's a big snarly area right now. And now with the new supermarket that's gonna be there, social services across the street, it's gonna be very busy, so, yeah.
Chair,
Council President.
I just want to thank Bill for being super responsive. You know, a lot of these are very reactive, and you guys talked about like plans, et cetera, in terms of plan. But I really want to thank you for being responsive, not just us, the council, more importantly, the public. Thank you.
Well, so council members, no other questions? Go, thank you.
I just want to thank you also,
You're welcome.
seriously, I mean, offhand, you know, we've had multiple discussions and you've been really responsive, so I want to thank you also.
Thanks, great.
Well, thank you, Bill. Okay, Andy.
I'm gonna skip the parking, I'm gonna deviate from our list. Councilmember Miller. Let's give
In
the
respect to
people-
our employees that are still here, let's try to move them so they can go on with their life.
So,
And council members, if we could just keep our, I know we have a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts about how to improve the city, but tonight, if we could just keep our focus on the budget, I really appreciate it for everybody that's here and our employees. And, yes.
we'll start with parking revenues. PG. About 2/3 of the way down. Parking garages and lots were budgeted based off of current status of all the garages and lots in the city. That's the cause for the dip in both categories. Parking meters, the increase of 50,000 was based off of. It is an increase over what we saw in 2022, 319,000. That was based off looking at where we're at this year, which I will get the number year to date, but also the trajectory that we've seen on meters the last few years, which is up, so that's coinciding with that as well. And then towing revenues brought that back down $10,000 based off of what we saw in 2022 along with prior years.
Are all our parking meters up and running?
Yes.
Everything's operating perfectly. I noticed the ones down by that bank had like, have we had a lot of fading on the screen? People talking about that fading.
Yes, and with those, they're not spring loaded like buttons. Can be hard to turn the screen on, so that's over time has become a problem to get it done. Has certainly faded them. But that's easily replaceable. We just have to get the screen on. Great, thank you.
Chair,
Councilman, member
the towing contract, and in towing in terms of revenue, some of that revenue comes to the city and some of it goes to, our contracted towing companies, correct? When someone is towed, the contractual amount to the city is how much, you know?
That is, that's something I want to pull the contracts on and look at with Greg. And that we just weren't, that's not something I was able to get through today with them.
Yeah, I'd like to have that follow-up and then what would you say your parking in terms of where you're ticketed? Obviously, the meters are downtown and RPI for the most part. But in terms of other types of towing, I think last year, we talked about parking on the sidewalk, in the Berg and Lansingburg. And certainly there's the double parking on through streets. And when we have the police here, is it a moving violation? Is it a parking violation? And I'd love to hear your opinion on that so that we can tackle that because Congress turns into and I'm sure there's other parts of the city that everyone can speak to. It turns into a challenge.
If you would ask our guys, they would say they would rather the police handle it.
Yep.
But it's computational and it's certainly going to get into this hot water that it does. Like we even just asking them to move, it worked up. So, I mean, if it's something that we are told to do, we'll do it. But I mean, yeah, we should have it because, I mean, we'll call the police and they will show up, but you know, it's not pull them off something. If we can do it, I would be opposed to it.
Just the amount of the ticket versus.
Yeah.
Versus your time and risk. So.
Tammy. Continue with the, expenditures.
One
Council
quick
President?
question. Yep. There's a real issue going on down at the Taylor, where the construction is happening. And folks are very concerned because they're saying parking enforcement is not holding the contractors accountable. Contractors saying we're in discussion, because all their workers are parking along river. And folks can't park to go into some of the small businesses. So I've been contacted by various businesses, and I know it's not total budget, but it is for my budget only because they're stating that they're in conversations for one of our garages. We're entering winter. I mean, the business folks are really, really concerned.
So
Something's got to get there.
for the garages, they can pay for a monthly pass. That's the offer to
Okay, but
them.
what's happening is they're not being held accountable by our parking for the 2-hour limit. They're
So that's
parking there
something
all
we could-
day.
We could definitely look at because that's the first I've heard that come.
You're on an email with Laura Amos and Michael Nimble, when the business owner contacted your office a couple of times, Chris. It's really, I mean, it's going on now for a couple of months.
I know Dylan was talking with Pike because they had wanted a reduced rate potentially for the parking garages. We can't do that, but we can pay for it. We also offer potentially if there's availability, 1 mile square. But I'll take another look at that.
Something's
Yeah,
gotta give. I mean,
right.
we can't be letting a contractor dictate to us. I mean, this is a public street, 2-hour enforcement isn't being held. If they're not going to take the garage, ticket them.
If-
What's the problem?
All right, I don't think you're right.
That would be feasible.
Yeah.
There's no problem with that.
Council member Surya.
So with the booting, have you been, doing any booting? Okay, and Andy, where does that fall in the revenue line?
Parking tickets,
That, okay, so that falls under,
page 9, middle of the page, the 675.
that's included with the booting, okay, and, how many have that been played this year?
Year to date, we're at, I want to say 120 roughly.
Okay, and everyone has paid for those.
We've had a couple stolen
Mhm.
and, well, we eventually found people that are stolen. But yeah, they,
And that's based off of how many tickets, is it based off of how many tickets or like what, the dollar amount is of the overall amount for the ticket,
the dollar amount,
the dollar amount, and what is that?
300.
300, okay. All right,
I have a question. How do you drive away one of those things on a car, or how do you feel it when it's, I'm like, well,
We actually have a video. He took the entire tire off, brought it into his house. And from there, I think he inflated it. And then, so his neighbor had it on ring camera, so.
oh, that's,
Yeah,
you have a combination or another fine?
it was actually directly behind Bonds, so I told all their drivers to look out, so he was parked in the garage for 3 months. And so he finally parked on the road.
I had to open up.
All right, okay, let's get the, how about expenditure? Let's move along here.
Page 100.
Oh, sorry. Revenues.
Yeah, parking fine. So the parking fine number is down, so it was decreased, aligned with what we've seen this year, and then right sizing for the trajectory that we've seen. I will remind everyone that they are as paid, not as billed. Probably worth. I don't think it happens this year. I think that the city should consider about the MSD program next year. The last one was in 2020. It probably is time to revisit that with FBS. Who has always been, I think, very, we've done it twice with them. They're very, very good at promoting it, communication on it. Within 4 years, we'll probably do it.
Yeah, and Chair, Ian, thank you, I fell off the floor. Andy, where are we right now with outstanding? You may not have it readily
We can
available.
pull it.
Thank you.
Chair, just one other revenue question.
Talks about that.
For our parking garages, downtown, how many vacancies do we currently have? Your budget. Or- yeah. It was not a problem.
As of September 15th, Fifth Ave was fully sold. State Street had 18 available.
Are those parking spots being advertised in any way, shape, or form on our website?
No, they're not.
Okay, I think that that's, generating revenue, and having available spots and the lot is really important. One of the calls I get all the time, and people are probably willing to pay more. We're charging 75 a month.
Yes.
I do think people are willing to pay more, especially given the cost of it, now that things are metered and pretty solidly enforced. And empty spots make us no money. So every empty spot is a waste of resources, and there's a tremendous amount of demand. And I would say, by not having that information easily accessible, it also puts a strain on businesses and their employees. I know of at least one business that has lost multiple employees because they thought they couldn't get a spot in the garage. And we're getting too many parking tickets, and so they quit. And that happened to them multiple times. And we all know how difficult it is to hire. So I think we'll make more money, we'll make people happier, and let's be fun.
Agreed.
Hey, just a stupid thought, they need to put a sign up on the garage, 18 open, 18
Yeah.
vacancies.
Literally.
Like you do in a hotel, hey,
Code,
Yeah, because I look at it every day, so it's very easy.
right.
listen, they would love you. They would, well, we're giving that.
So we're through revenue now, any more questions on revenue? All right, let's go to expenditures.
Page 100, the only change in the budget is the removal of the full-time parking enforcement.
Sure.
Council President,
Yep, Andy, what do we have temporary salary to be? I'm sorry that you brought that down.
83,500.
any other questions, council members? Yeah, James Bergman.
Oh, sorry, Andy, for overtime, did we use any of that this year?
Not yet.
Thank you.
Just an insurance policy. All right. Everybody good? Thank you, Dan. Appreciate your time tonight.
Code enforcement,
Dave,
Sharon. Is here,
Dave, how are you? Good to see you. Very well, thank you.
page 113. Wow, 100, we'll go to 150. Big change in permanent salaries for this one would be the funding of the director of code enforcement. Which is about middle of the page on page 115. And is the result, is the cause of the increase in permanent salaries 2024 with it. Moving down to the accounts, account 409 is the account that we use for the servicing of LLCs through the Department of State for violations. And training was increased to $5,000. Everything else is status quo.
Chair?
Okay. Councilmember Kelly was.
So, right now, Director of Code Enforcement, that's empty, correct?
I love it.
Dave Sheeran's in that position and they have a great, pay right now.
Gotcha. So it's not vacant anymore. Sorry, I'm gonna get technical.
It would be provisional.
Does the council need to sign off on that? Does the council need to sign off on that? The director? Union, okay.
Any questions, council members? Code?
Chair, can we go to the revenues? On page 9, I noticed the building and alteration permits are up. Estimated 300K.
So they're all. Dave and Dylan did a really good job of putting together an estimate of the project they anticipate for next year. It's an analysis that they do where they take the estimated construction costs and then the probability of the project coming to fruition. Based off of numbers that they provided, this is a conservative estimate that we then dialed back. Brought it down, I believe it's
1.5.
Yeah, 1.5, I think like we got it back. Hold on, it's gonna take us. $805,000.
Do you anticipate hitting 1.2?
Dave thinks that we can. I'll also note that there is a lot of principal portion of building permits. So I'm gonna put it very loose, one time where it is very dependent on timing of projects when they come in to pull their permits, things of that nature. So you will see, we've talked about this, it does go on a wave every single year. But they did just say he does think 1.2 for that this year.
Councilmember, any questions? Councilmember Mitt. Councilmember,
Thank you.
Council President, and Councilmember Mitt.
Thanks. Real quick, where would we find the consultants? I know we had to go outside quite a bit this year. Where would we find that in?
For engineering,
Yeah.
in the
In
engineering
the
department.
engineering, okay, and so it would be anything, got it.
The only consultant for quote would be that the company who does the processing for violations for the LLCs.
Thank you.
Council members, any other questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Min,
So in terms of the zombie property program, which I know several years ago was bringing in, after the law change with New York State, it was bringing in a good amount of money. Can you tell us more about that and where it's at?
Eric Ferraro still deals with the zombie properties, he's out planning. It's down because while we were doing all that, buildings weren't being inspected. So we're gonna try to get together with Eric next couple of days, tomorrow or Monday, and figure out how we can continue to do that and make that work a little bit better. But with all the time that Eric spent on those zombie properties, he wasn't doing any inspections on the outside, so a lot of his days were spent inside, dealing with field services, banks, lawyers. The gentleman that's out there now, Mr. Lawler, he's actually going to the buildings and inspecting.
Yeah, I know it's a tricky process and it has a really positive impact and it goes, like, there's a couple doors down from 132 and it was zombie and it's under construction now and they are very dangerous buildings to have and so, I think, and it's a revenue stream for us as well, getting them out of the hands of banks that really don't care about our community. And the other thing is, in terms of our fine levels in comparison to other municipalities regionally, do you think that they are too high, too low, just about right?
I think other municipalities do it a different way than we do. If we want to sit down and put a number on every violation, $50, $100, $25, then our guys are gonna be issuing 60 tickets to one piece of property. And that's gonna take up a lot of their time.
And in terms of our building permit pricing, given the fact that, I know the business review basically, and recently in the papers, like Albany just doesn't have any building permits, because of the choices that they made. But that business is coming to Troy. Is it an appropriate time, in your opinion, to start looking at resetting our permitting pricing and raising it as we're seeing more demand to build in Troy?
We could take a look at that, but I don't want to overprice people either, and they don't want to do business in Troy.
I think that it would be, an advantageous thing for us to look at what a couple other municipalities outside of Albany, what they're doing, because, we're seeing 1,300 units come online in the next 2 years. And I think that demand is going to continue to accelerate and we might as well capitalize on it. And then the other thing you've said that isn't reflected in this budget, in this meeting, is that given your current workload, you really do need 2 additional code officers and another support staff. Is that correct?
Do I need that?
For current,
I could always use it. We've done, let's see, 6,174 inspections this year with 4 guys. That's so far.
Yeah.
So if you figure that's gonna get to 8,000, you're talking 2,000 inspections per inspector. So if we could get the funding, yeah, I would always love to see more people in. The longer we can keep them out on the street, the more they can do. If we got 2 people sending notices for the inspectors that are coming in every day, then the inspectors will be able to be out on the street longer. We do have a new gentleman in, and he's doing a good job. He's learning. We're kind of easing him into it. We don't want to bombard him. So, yeah, I could always use more, although have much more. But going back to the permits, you said raise the price, but you're not just raising it on the contractors, you're raising it on the taxpayers also. It's not just contractors that are paying for permit.
And I recognize it. The other thing that I know has been floated as an idea is a residential occupancy permit where every apartment is inspected every time it opens up for re-rental. What would a program like that, how would that impact your department in terms of, you know, the staffing levels that you currently?
Then I believe we would need at least two more people and another person in the office.
So at least 3 additional staff and
And then we have to figure out how we're gonna roll it in with everybody. You know, the owners in the city of Troy haven't done that since the inception of Troy. So how do you figure to roll that out? That's a big problem. You know, Cohoes, they have 3 schools in Cohoes, and I believe that's how they do it. A new student comes to a school, the school contacts the city, what's the address? And if the property hasn't been inspected, then the owner is issued a ticket and they have to have it inspected. So most of the landlords are in compliance with that. They don't want to be dragged into court. How we're gonna do that, and roll that out and bring that to the public and to the homeowners. I don't, just to think about it right now, I don't know how you do it. The landlord registry, when we mailed 5,800 of those out, you wouldn't believe the language that we were getting written back on it, you know, and people were just not happy with it. And they weren't. They were very disgusted, and it was tough trying to get people to comply. Now we're doing a better job at it, though. You know, we're sending them in, new homeowners are getting in. It goes on zoning compliance letters now if they're not registered. So the banks are I'm sending letters to them saying it's not registered. The owner's contacting me, registering it, getting the sheet into us. And then I remove it from the letter, so the bank will give them a loan.
okay, that makes sense. That's a really effective way to do it. Chair?
Dave, do you have any open positions still in your department?
No,
Do you fill the 2 positions that were empty? Thank you. All right, Councilor Member, Colin Wilson.
I'm not sure if this is Andy or Dave, but I just was curious about, for the vacant buildings. I know that there's one under public safety. I don't think we touched on it earlier this week. And then I do have a question for Dave too.
I'll go ahead, your question for Dave first.
Yeah, also related to vacant buildings, do you have like specific priorities or concerning buildings that you want to prioritize for 2024 in terms of, or even the end of this year in terms of securing them?
curing and demolition,
Yeah.
demolishing, yeah, you got to redo. The gentleman that dealt with that left, Todd Dickinson. He took over the vacant building demolitions. Basically, my guys only inspected after everything was done. It's back in-house with code enforcement. Since what happened down on Ford Street, Mr. Lawler has been to every building with an X on it. And right now he is preparing a report for me. And I will look into how much money we have for demolition. And then we'll proceed with the worst to the best.
Awesome. I love to hear that. And it's been a big concern of mine, obviously, because I was right next to the building that collapsed and
I
you
just
don't
want-
want anyone else's experience that.
I just want to add one of the processes that we set up earlier this year. I think it was this year, maybe last, was going through the Department of State and using Alexander Pool to serve those LLCs that might own those properties. So once we have the list, we can, work on, Dave can work on, how do we go after that LLC? And we've been doing that effectively in some manner, so.
Great, awesome. And if possible, if you could share that report once it's ready with the council, just so we know what needs to be prioritized. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you. And Chair.
Councilmember Soriano?
I just have a, what if the, Andy got it.
So I budgeted $625,000 for revenue next year in big building fees. It's an increase of $50,000 from the 2023 budget. Also, seems like we're on that, wave again of high, low, where people are not paying their current year fee code, not for a lack of trying from billing end of it, but for whatever reason, people would rather pay their vacant building fees through the levy than through the billing process. Make some guesses why. But that's so it was the budget numbers in anticipation that it will come back up next year when we re-levy the unpaid vacant building fees and they'll pay them on their first installment.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Andy, this is more of a question for you. So with the code violations, and the revenue, that is based on what was collected, right? Does that include any litter violations? Is that incorporated into these code violations?
I would imagine so. So if it's written by an LPO, it's in the garbage bucket.
Okay,
If it's ticketed and goes through the court, more than likely is included in that code violation.
even if it was issued by a litter patrol officer and they have to go to court for it?
It would probably be there. I'd want to double check that. But
Okay.
if we don't bill it, like if we don't bill it
Yeah.
to OGS, it goes through the courts, probably is in that code violation.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. You raised my radar with the Alexander Bull comment because we used, that service for subpoenas and it was absolutely horrible. So I'm not sure what you're getting from them, but we did not have this.
We did have some bumps in the road in the beginning, but from what I've spoken with staff, we've worked them out. So it seems to be working for now, but we'll definitely keep an eye on that.
Council members, any other questions?
Yes.
All right.
So I had this idea for, I brought it up during, science and technology, but using C-Click as a way to help, minimize or kind of organize the clerk responsibilities. I'm curious, Steve, would you be open to kind of having like an online spot where folks can kind of, report any like potential violations they may see in their own apartments, things like that? I don't know if we already have that.
We do.
Okay,
Yeah, we have an online hotline. It's
gotcha.
right on the website. And there's a phone number and they contact them when we get several every week.
Awesome. Do you guys like advertise like how to walk through that or anything like that on?
No,
Okay.
I'm just about computer illiterate. I know my job and on the computer, but, what's on the website, we don't put anything into that. You know, we don't tell Frank what to put online.
But you bring up a good point. I'll have a conversation with Frank, because we can get that out also on social media. And I know he's working on a number of projects with this issue.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful, just so folks know how to, like, that code is actually there for them in terms of reporting these violations, making sure that these buildings are safe to live in. And then with that information that you get from C-Click, you use that to prioritize what you're dealing with week to week or month to month. Dave?
No, C-Click Fix, I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. Is that on? I don't know.
I guess that's-
We have the hotline. That's what I know about. We have the hotline on the website.
So there's just the hotline, there's not a reporting mechanism on the website. Is that correct? It's an online portal.
Yeah, they send, we get emails every morning. Jimmy will take off what they're,
Every morning, Jimmy Lance gets it. So every morning, if there's something that a neighbor notices at 11 o'clock at night, they can go on and they can report that. And it goes right to Jimmy. It goes right to Jimmy's desk.
Gotcha. Okay.
Council members, any other questions? Great, thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Andy? Sir, where's the trail leaving?
Page 121. The streets. Very much a status quo budget, with the exception of one item. No, which is the street light, which that was determined by taking the current monthly bill, dividing it by, at that time, 8, multiplying it by 12, and then adding a little fluctuation in there. But it came out to be like 535,000. So what you're starting to see is the savings from the purchase of the streetlights. Over 50% of the bill was that facilities charge that we no longer pay on almost all of the streets. So the reduction from 780 to 550 is that we really, that's the real savings that we brought that down incrementally over 2 years to really see what that savings was gonna be. That's the big change in the streets department budget.
President.
Andy, where are we to date? And while you're looking at that, is the maintenance also part of this or no?
Maintenance is in the facilities department that I had talked about earlier.
Okay, good.
And to date, which is 9 months, 8 months, $330,000,
332.
330.
Sure.
Council member?
Andy, can you just walk me through the 40900 for consultant services,
That's for tree removal.
tree removal? So we're not doing any of that next year? Zeroed out, so.
Nine.
Well, 0-100, zeroed out. Not 409.
Yeah, I was referring to the 100. So the four
We
nine,
moved it up. What we did was we had a we had a problem. We were paying the CLC bill that Kevin was referring to earlier was paid out of multiple accounts, so we cleaned that up. And then closed the 100 account and moved the tree removal from the 409 line. To make Colleen's life easier because Colleen pays all the bills for every department we've talked about tonight, plus garbage.
gotcha, so, So
Or
it's all-
it was an account, it's where things are posted to clean up.
all right, sorry, I'm just taking a look. I'm not seeing, so last year it was about 60K. I'm only seeing about like a 10K difference in the 409, 100, or the
So
four.
that, again, 100. CLC was paid for out of both of these, it was being paid for out of the wrong account, along with other items, so we cleaned up where things were being paid out of. So we could properly budget each department's expenses and then consolidate accounts down that Colleen was paying out.
Okay, thank you. That makes a lot more sense, sorry.
Council members?
Chair,
Member Manning?
just circling back to the streetlights, I just sit back into the facilities maintenance. And is the cost there, is that the gas and electric bill?
No, the $250,000 and 162409 2550. That's for all of this other things that get paid out of there, but the principal portion of that is the general fund's cost of the service agreements with Siemens. So once you finish a Siemens project, you pay ongoing maintenance. So that cost is elevated right now because we're still in their 5 or 7 year windows where they have to provide maintenance and other services related to the work that they did.
But basically between the cost for Siemens, the devastating and the streetlight, it almost ends up being a wash.
Well, that 162409 was not always, it was never zero. We spent a lot of time doing cost analysis for Siemens in 2019. And then in 2020, when we did phase 2. That included debt costs, and then that was the time and interest rates weren't where they are now. It wasn't, it's not it's not a wash between 162409 and this account.
And the
We
same,
pulled in a lot of debt into it for the
Got it.
project as well.
got it. So, I mean, like, I guess overall, what we're seeing with the LED streetlights is as we're moving out of basically the implementation and the purchase phase, we're starting to see the savings because we own our own.
Yes, but also bear in mind that we have debt service costs that were folded into that.
Yeah, okay.
That's how we were able to do the project.
Thank you very much.
Andy,
Any other questions on streets?
council member? Good.
Page
Oh,
one-
Sorry, Chair.
Council President.
Yep, the temporary salaries I noticed are down 15K, Andy. Proposed to go down. Where are we to be on that, and why is that being proposed to go down?
$24,000 to date and was reduced based off of usage.
Was it because we didn't need capacity of another person there, or we?
I would defer that to, and so Joe Martin's on vacation.
Yeah.
He's not here. I would defer that to,
Okay.
I would defer that to the commissioner or the supervisor.
Onward and upward.
Page 126 is snow, but I'm just gonna say, they're all, it's the same balances. Kind of a way to say.
Chair, sorry,
Council President.
no vacancies in the street? Oh, wait a minute.
There's a vacant MEO
Yeah,
late.
MEO. Sorry. And are they all working, any on workers' comp, or are we? Oh,
I don't know if there's any employees out on top of the streets.
Council members, any other questions? Okay. Any questions on snow removal? Okay, move on.
all done, all done.
All is still there.
No, actually, other materials and supplies you're proposing to go down. What are we to be? Please. Thank you.
Zero. Although other bits of salt, I'm sorry, salt, 359,000,
We're at 59K on other
359.
three. Oh, but we're budgeting,
I believe there's gonna be a new state contract and
oh, we are at 359, sorry. Wow,
so we're waiting to see the results of that, but I would,
so that money has to go up.
it could, but also bear in mind that snow and ice reserve is there, well, for that exactly.
Right, right.
Any other questions, council members?
Okay.
All right, Amy.
Marina. Can we go to revenues?
So to begin this conversation through September, fuel sales were $67,000 and slip sales were $27,000.
Did you say that again, sorry,
Through September, fuel sales were $67,000 and slip sales were $27,000.
so the docking did not do too well,
Correct.
weather. Maybe, but
So
they're not. Yeah,
the budgeted revenues for next year were lined up with the revenues that the actual revenues for 2022. So $80,000 for gas seems to be in line with the revenues, and then not that far off on the slip sales from where we currently are. As well,
And Andy, what are we paying the company?
through September, we had paid them $103,000.
Yeah, I recall back in 2022, there was an estimate I flagged it for 145K for docking and fuel and 75K, and I kind of thought that that was way over. Mentioned it at that time. But it sounds like we're getting back to conservative, which is good.
Council members, any questions? All right, Andy.
I will note that on page. Well, the funding is there, again, for the senior citizens centers.
Back to Marina, so we have 80K materials and supplies, that's. Is that the cost, what exactly is that?
That's the fuel.
Okay, so. Our expenditure, maybe, and we're only getting back like 35 or.
Well, revenue to date is 66, but yes,
60, sorry, 60. And then, the consultant services, we're actually paying them $215 for that.
so Oasis year to date is 103,000. So. But we also had the bids and dock removal. Dock removal and installation, so that's included in that number as well.
Very good. Andy, how long is our contract with Oasis? You could email me if you don't have it readily available. I mean,
It was extended through the end of 2024.
2024, but they have a 1-year extension?
We at this point only do, so if you have a kind of, you could have, like, the turkey trot is a 4-year renewal, but we only do it in 1-year blocks. That's how every city contract is at this point.
And can we ask Oasis for a report? You know, when they came on board, you know, like the projections, but also the advertising and being online and, you know, obviously it's something that I was familiar with for many years during my Canal Greenway days, and I really don't see them, you know, out there promoting Troy, and I thought that that was really going to be a part of their shtick.
Yeah, from prior conversations, they've been advertising in trade magazine. When you are on those boats, in the websites and the magazines that they're looking at, but I can certainly ask them for that information.
Yeah, that
Um,
like a 2-3 page report that councils just look and see what they did in 2023 and what they plan for 2024.
Sure.
Thanks.
Andy, can you, how much did we spend on fuel this year or other materials and supplies you paid?
No,
No, that was for the.
I'm
consultant
sorry,
service.
66.
Oh, that's the revenue.
Yeah, that's revenue.
Oh, all right, sorry. 80,000,
45,000.
Okay. So there's, so that is, so we are making a little bit of money
We
on
paid
just fuel.
$21,000.
Any questions? All right, Andy.
Page 148. Page 150. We put $10,000 in for the payment to the senior citizens center.
awesome. Now on my list to add if we did.
Just for this is the senior citizen for the shore visitor center, right? Or
It's on page 150, the department is 7610, Program for the aged.
So one of those organizations closed, correct?
Landscaper.
All right, and so we didn't. Then, but, I just wanted.
And the roads are where, I saw some of the chart folks and they could not be happier. They took a trip to Lake George and, they really utilize these funds and Rensselaer actually gives their, one senior for 10 grand. So maybe down the road, we might want to like to add a little more, but it's a good start and they're just so excited to have it. So thank you for including. And you.
All right, who left?
Go.
Engineering. 55, 54. Very much a status quo budget. Everything's the same as it was in the original budget, 2023.
Chair,
Councilmember.
why are we removing, taking out the actual city engineer?
Why did we fund it?
Yeah, why was that taken out? Completely.
So there is still the temporary salary appropriation for a city engineer.
Okay, so that whole 100,000 is gonna go towards the engineer, or is that,
Oh, right now, Mr. Wilkie's paid out of that as well.
okay?
So that's how it was when Aaron Vera was here. It was came out of the temporary salary. We could certainly look at putting it in permanent, but
Okay, and what was that salary for Aaron, and what is it for Doug, so I can try to figure out like the separation between the two.
we have to we can pull those numbers.
I can test it so far.
I know our opinion with the temporary salaries was to leave that amount there for the next administration to be able to hire an engineer. So that's why we left it at about the same.
I'm showing the current budget though, it's at 30,000.
We took money out of it earlier this year before the budget was done and transferred it to consultant services.
Okay. Thank you.
Project supervisor, not Phil.
Right.
That,
I think
council members, any questions? All right, let's move on.
Actually, sure.
Council member.
So consultant services. I know we have hired outside engineers for a number of projects, which we don't have an in-house engineer. And it looks like you're looking to drop those consultant fees at both line 409 and 409. 001. If we don't have a city engineer and we need engineering services, how are we paying for engineering?
So two things to know. The 001 account was an emergency declaration for a Gene Place. That's where all those expenditures were paid out of. That was not engineering. That was not like third-party engineers. To the full extent, that was well over 95, if not 100% of that was the 2022 expenses to correct that situation on Lori Jean. So that's not. As I said, that's one time. And as I just mentioned, the 50,000 that's there for 2023 or 2024 is the same amount that had been there in the 2023 original budget. Current budget amount that is reflected is after amendments that were approved by the council as of the October fifth or sixth city council meeting, so we had transferred up at least $70,000. I think there were more, but $70,000 was transferred to the temporary salary account, the consultant services account. So we're not reducing the 409 line. We're setting the appropriations back to what they were to start the 2023 fiscal year.
And potential transfers will happen with them.
Correct.
Hey, Andy, have we received any type of, compensation or payback for that Lori Jean deal? I mean, that was the,
No,
Chris, are we attempting to recoup some of that expenditure based on the fact that they put the wrong fill in there and set that street up the wrong way, the original property owner and contractor?
That predates me. I'd have to talk to Rick.
So you should talk and find out. I'd like to get that answer.
Chair,
Let us do some research, and I want to talk to Rick before I'll get you the final answer. I don't want to wing it.
No, what you wait?
Chair,
Hold on, council member, Ali Wilson first. Then council president.
Andy, for training and travel, have we used any of that this year?
no.
No, okay.
Council members, any other questions?
have we tried to get any, anything recouped from the Harbor Point? Consult, I know that they're suing us, I guess, and have we attempted any, tries?
So that's another Rick question. I do think at the last meeting, he said he is taking that into account with the suit that they have placed against us and his deliberations of a countersuit. You know, I think he has that in his toolbox, I would say right now.
Any other questions, council members? All right, let's move on.
And last but not least, page 58. Which is admin, which is the commissioner and senior counselor, who again processes all the payment vouchers for everything we discussed tonight, signs engineering plus the garbage fund, and it is status quo, with the exception of uniforms, which we did increase $10,000. That appropriation was underestimated for 2023, so we right-sized it accordingly.
And was that undersized because we added more people to the process, or did it cost uniforms go that high?
It could have been, I don't recall what triggered the underestimate 2023.
Thank you. Council members, any questions?
We did not, go over streets, capital plan, but, perhaps Sandy, you can go through that quick.
So we'll go whatever, we're gonna go to capital plan.
So they're looking for a variety of different vehicles which are unfunded, as we've discussed. I think my comments on this will go back to that I don't. At $48,000 under the tax cap, it's not necessarily viable this year. But police vehicles have been successful. The next step has got to be, and I would argue, has got to be pickup trucks. Because the turnover that we're seeing, they're being driven every day. To find a way, we financed the purchase of some this year through the capital reserve. Relying on the capital reserve from a financial perspective is not the most sound. That's not always going to be there, and you want to keep it for other purposes as well. That the next council and future councils should have consideration among a litany of things of getting pickup trucks into the budget.
Chair,
Council president.
I guess, Andy, if we look back at the 2023 capital plan, what was funded? So we can kind of compare it to the 2024.
So the thinking this year when we used the capital reserve,
Because I'm seeing a lot.
yeah, so they have ordered, I believe, 3 pickup trucks. But it was. Trying to find the right word. It was, they had a lot less restrictions they had much less restrictions than they were accustomed to. Because we had been using bond resolutions for everything, they were boxed in on what they could buy, the amount that they could buy, and it was transitioning it over to $500,000. It's the prerogative of the commissioner and the supervisors to decide and what they wanted to buy. Coupled with that, and this isn't to disparage, Sean Woolley was very good. The financing side of it and the purchasing side of it. Chris Hart and I have had conversations. He's been in the position for 4 months, get acclimated there, and then sit down and have a conversation with him about how purchasing do. And he has actually started because he's engaged with the purchasing agent on doing mini bids to order further vehicles, primarily pickup trucks. But also to explain to him, if you have a vehicle on a bond resolution, this is your sandbox. On fund balance, this is your sandbox, and the purchasing options that he has in front of him. So I do think the transition from Sean to Chris has played a factor into the 500,000, and also the unrestricted nature of what they could buy.
Yeah, I guess, what I'd like to see, and I know you're not going to be able to do right away, is what we approved bonding for various, vehicles, equipment. What is in the hopper? What have we received and what's left over so we can kind of look at 2024?
That is on the list of things to do. I think though that you'll be pleasantly surprised at how little EFC side, how little of bond resolutions for non-infrastructure work we have left. And off the top of my head, the only thing I can really think of is fire vehicles, primarily the pumper and the ladder truck. And that have been approved but not issued. Otherwise, we've approved, issued, and paid for most of the vehicles.
Thank you.
Council members, any other questions?
Sure.
Oh. Councilmember Conley Wilson.
I don't know if we went over the recreation department's capital budget. I'm just curious, because last year we had 65,000, 85,000 for pickup trucks and landscape dump trucks and attachments. I'm curious, was any of that spent last year? Is that why that's carrying over?
The only thing purchased for the recreation capital plan for 2023 was their contract work.
Okay. That makes sense.
Any other questions, council members?
And there's no capital projects for any of the parks, correct? Aside from the Freer Park Golf Course.
So there's still the ongoing ARPA and / bond finance park improvement projects that are ongoing.
I'm sorry, Andy, can you just tell me where I would be able to find that?
That's not in the budget book because it's ARPA and it's previously approved capital.
Gotcha.
The bond resolution was approved, if I recall correctly, in 2020. It was approved as part of the 2022 budget process.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then if we can get like updates, I know I talked to Chris about this, updates on the ARPA projects and all the other parks projects. I know a lot of folks are going to have questions about this, so getting ahead of it. Thank you.
Okay, is that it, Andy? Our lunchbox is getting closed. All right,
We'll have it all up, it's all right.
well, we'll open up our public speaking portion. I know Mr. Spinner, Jeremy Tree. I've been saying, I don't know about anybody else that's out there, but certainly want to make sure that we hear what we have to say and we'll make sure that We get through the budget properly.
Last time I appeared before the council, I was remiss when I asked the council to consider asking of apportioning more money for the attorneys who appear in court to enforce the code enforcement laws. I didn't make clear that that was a stopgap measure. That what really has to happen is a reconfiguration of the way in which we enforce code enforcement. And I'd ask the council to take notice of the fact that on August 5th, 2019, the New York State Committee on Investigations and Operations issued a 143-page report that dealt with the inefficiency of code enforcement throughout the state of New York. And on page 82, they make recommendations, similar to like what I used to do when I worked for the Inspector General for the state of New York. We looked at a problem and we tried to come up with solutions that will, number one, put in place policies and practices that be more efficient, but number two, because we're talking about the budget, save money. You know, we had something in Manhattan, listening to tonight's presentation, we had something in Manhattan where you had a guy stand at a table, a TV table, and he had 3 cups on it. And under one cup, allegedly, you were supposed to find a peanut. And you put down $20 and you move them around. You know, almost nobody won except the guy who was working with him. Every once in a while, that guy would win to make the crowd think that it was a legitimate game. Well, let's talk about this engineer discussion we had here today. You know, when you say that, you know, a couple of people pointed out, well, you cut the money from the engineer. They respond, no, we put it back to the way it was in 2022. Well, guess what? It's 2024. And to say that the initial amount of funding, I think we had a number, 52 grand, that came from the emergency budget. Well, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's cut because it's coming from the taxpayer. So if you had an engineer, that money wouldn't have to come from the emergency fund, and it could have been transferred like they do. You had that tonight. We're going to take this out of here, put it here, so we'll make it available to the next mayor. Well, you could have done the same thing with that money, because if you had an engineer, he said, "Well, we're thinking about it. We're going to take that into consideration and look at that." You mean to tell me that after what happened at Harbor Point Gardens, this administration is still bucking the call to put in place an engineer? Are you kidding me? Okay. Let me try not to rant for the next couple of seconds. We have something in Troy, a hybrid housing code enforcement court. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the state of New York. In other cities, for example, Buffalo, New York City, we have dedicated housing courts with a dedicated housing court judge. What happens in the fiasco down here in this courthouse is you have one case, the judge is hearing a case on a landlord-tenant issue, maybe a non-pay or a holdover. And then the next minute, they're dragging someone out in handcuffs, and he's listening to a case on this guy shooting someone. It's inappropriate, it's unbalanced, and it's inefficient, and it needs to change. So what do we have? How do we enforce code enforcement in every other city in New York State? Major city. Okay, we've got administrative hearing process. An administrative hearing process, in theory, takes politics out of the process in deciding the outcome. Now, it's not perfect. I'm not gonna say it's perfect, and we can debate on whether it's efficient or not, and whether it's better than what we have. Because we have a situation in Rochester where they have a dedicated housing court, and they have, in Syracuse, they have an administrative adjudication process. So we can take a look at that and use the best of both worlds. But it's not working in this city, and here's a perfect example. Our landlord, on the 27th of this month, pled guilty of, he was charged, let's start with that. He was charged with 17 violations of 380 that are on the books and 4,000 that actually exist. After 4 adjournments, unprecedented, and after the judge rejected one plea bargain in which Mr. Morrissey offered no penalty and no jail time, the judge couldn't withstand that embarrassment, so he rejected that. But they agreed to a lesser embarrassment. And if any of you get in trouble and get a deal like this, let me know. You will go on the Tonight Show. He pled guilty to 7 counts in relation to the brick veneer walls, $1,000 fine, no jail time. He received adjournment in contemplation of dismissal on 5 other charges. Will be wiped clean off the record if he complies with paying the $7,000 in 90 days, and the other 5 charges were dismissed. But let me just point out one thing. One of those charges was for a broken glass door in building 156. 16 months went by, we couldn't get it fixed. The tenants, code enforcement. The day before he appeared in court to be sentenced, he fixed the glass door. So what have I been saying all along? Get the landlords into court, because the threat of a penalty will get them to fix the property. And once you made an example of 1 or 2 landlords, I assure you, the culture will change. You will not have to back down every recalcitrant landlord with a hammer or bring them to court. Because once the world gets around that Troy is starting to enforce their code enforcement, they're not going to come here. They're not going to Syracuse. They're not going to Rochester. They're not going to New York City. If you just saw, we had a bunch of other New York City landlords come up here. None of these landlords that we're having problems with right now are from Shore. They're all from the Catskills or further down south. They're coming here because they know they can get away with it, because we have 8 years of this kind of a mindset. So now I heard someone asked, well, we're going to what happens if we put a certification of occupancy requirement in this city? Something that other cities have. And the response from the code enforcement acting legal director was, I don't know how we're going to do that. Well, let me tell you something. 10 years ago, or maybe 12, I was appointed the director of violation and complaint abatement for the Park Walk organization, a $45 billion real estate holding company in which I had responsibility for 100 high-rise buildings. We had a portfolio that included 42 buildings of what they would call luxury apartments, penthouses and such, all in Manhattan. And I bargained to get this job with our multi-millionaire, now billionaire owner, and said, I promise you that I will have every violation removed from our portfolio in Manhattan. And you know what? The whole table on both sides said, I don't know. We're going to do that. That's what I heard tonight. Well, I can tell you that I did it. I did it in less time. Every property manager said, you can't do that. How are we going to do it? We don't have the resources. We don't have the money. Let me tell you something. On 4th Avenue, where that building collapsed, Jesse Urbanski went back 9 times. There's 8 pages that I've reviewed. Another notice to cure. Another notice to cure. No, now, how does this affect the budget? Multiple ways. You want to save gas? The 9 times that he went back and forth, I realize it's close to City Hall, so it's not too much gas there, but multiply that over by the hundreds of other times this happens. You save gas, you save efficiency. if they start enforcing the violations, they'll spend less time. Okay, so let's go back quickly to the report. And what did the report say? It said that code enforcement gets a low priority. You think that applies in the city of Troy? The report also said that, code enforcement lacks training. I cannot believe that we have people sitting here that have been in this Bureau of Code Enforcement for 20 years, and they're like rookies. It's unbelievable. They don't have the right equipment. They don't know how to write up the violation. Here's the thing, you want to stop wasting time? The first time an inspector came to my premises for a building-wide inspection on May 9th, that's Jesse Ordansky. He gets out of the car with a small piece of paper like this. And he says, is this gonna be enough for me to write down? I said, no, you're gonna get a couple of sheets, because this is a building wide. It ended up being, as you know, 31 classifications and 300. The first violation, he gets out, is a pothole, 6 feet by 5 feet. Some of you have seen it. You saw it, you saw it, you saw it. 6 inches deep, filled with water. I say it's 2 violations. He says, I'm not sure about that. You can see he spends 20 minutes looking up on his phone to figure out whether standing water applies on gravel. First, he pulls up head care centers. Oh, no, that's not it. Nursing home, finally gets the right one. But I thought it had to be on dirt. Finally, he said, oh, no, you're right, it's 2 violations. We wasted 17, 20 minutes just on the first thing that he did. Now, imagine that if this guy would, what am I pointing out? Know the code. You want to, I don't have time to spend him in court. Take the 17 minutes that he wasted there, that 17 minutes he could be in court enforcing a violation. And I want you to know, they didn't have the gumption to call Jesse to the stand, not even once during the case against my landlord, but every other case did have somebody. So you talk about a hotline, and I'm sitting there in a case the other day in court. A 50-year-old woman's on a non-pay case. She's unsophisticated, having trouble. She can't ask the right questions. The judge trying to help her a few times with the questions. Finally, at the end of her pictures, a hole in the wall, a couple of things in the violations, standard, if I could use that term. The judge turns to her and says, "Man, did you ever report this to code enforcement, any of these conditions?" She said, "No." The judge responded, "Why not?" She said, "The landlord told me he has friends down there and I'll only get in trouble." Okay, you can add 900 more inspectors to code enforcement on this budget, and I advise you not to. Because as long as you do not change the culture at code enforcement and you churn out Jesse Ordansky's, instead of people like me, you're going to end up with the same results, and that is failure. Yes. So let me say this. There's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things, and everybody knows that. What we need to do with code enforcement is we need to take seriously the word enforcement. It is a waste of time to send an inspector anywhere in the city if we're not going to follow up on it. I showed you, I have a stack right now. It's 62 pages of violations. They're all overdue. It's still flooding every day in my apartment. It's still flooding. You know, today, they finally started putting the wall on my building. Today, believe it or not. So I've had almost 5 months with no wall on my building. When the 4th Ash Avenue building collapsed, in 4 days, and I think Councilman Wilson can attest to this, in 4 days, that landlord repaired the windows in the building that was damaged next. It's taken, is that correct or am I wrong?
So, my building was addressed almost immediately, before they even wrote the violation, the windows were addressed. For the other building, I'm not sure where that stands. For 291, no, 287, that was addressed immediately.
I was only referring to that because that other one has another story. You got four days at the most it took to put those in. It's taken 5 months to fix the window that's north wall 152 north wall. Now you look at, you say the vacant buildings, so when I went around, he said, oh, people are gonna call, you can make the number, you can put it up on a neon sign. Starting in September, I went around to the housing complexes in Troy, meeting with people. Then when this building collapsed, I started meeting with the people who live in these buildings next to the vacant buildings. And I asked them the same, I said, did you call up or did anyone make these? And you know, some of them actually had pictures they showed me of the buildings. That one and yours, this person sent it in, because I have them on my phone, of the bricks falling down to Dave Sheeran 19 months ago. Okay? Other people said, and I got this from good landlords, not just tenants. Good landlords told me they're afraid to go to court enforcement. I asked one landlord, well, why are you afraid? They said, well, you know, if we make any complaint, we're looking to put a fence up in our backyard. And if we make a complaint, we're afraid they're going to give us a hard time on a permit. So let me say this in closing. After meeting with hundreds of tenants, the Confederation of Tenants of Troy is growing daily. And from the ranks of those tenants comes out a strong unified force to try to affect the policy in Troy. But more than that, it is becoming an electoral bloc that will make the difference in the change of power in this city. And dare I say that in the future, from our ranks will come the next city council people to serve on this council. And from our ranks might even come a future mayor. Thank you.